All right. So we're going to get started with our meeting. Once again, my name is Clarence Cooper. I am the IAABO Chicago area secretary as well as interpreter, as well as Jeff Rutledge, who will be facilitating the meeting for the evening. Again, we got a wide variety of topics, and we're going to cover quite a few things. So he's going to go over the agenda, and hopefully at the end we can kind of review some plays. But our main topic for today is how to break down video or how to break down film and basketball tape. So we got some plays and things we'll show you towards the end of the meeting. And definitely, if you guys got questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or when we got time to unmute, we can unmute and ask your questions on the call, because we definitely have enough people on the call with a wide range of experience, from high school to college, and some even who may have done some semi-pro level stuff, that can help answer some of your calls. I mean, answer some of your questions. All right, so without further ado, let me pass it over to Jeff Rutledge.
Well, let's first off, I want you to talk about the dues. Well, here's our agenda, really, guys, and the main thing is we're going to probably not keep you any longer than maybe a little over an hour. At least that's the intention. So if we get longer than that, feel free to leave. You won't be upsetting us or anything like that, because we may get into some other topics, this that the other. But I want Clarence to kind of go over the dues a little bit, just to kind of explain them, what we or is going to happen, and then we'll get into some other topics. I'll talk about some of the other topics with our camp and some other things that are going on. So go into that, Clarence, real quick, or however long you need to take for that.
All right, so I'm going to put the link in the chat for the dues. Just as a reminder, I sent it in an email. Our dues are due no later than May 15th. It's $35 for the year to be a IAABO Chicago area member. If you want the spiral bound book, I'd have mine in my bag, in my other bag. But if you want the spiral bound book instead of the paperback book, it's $38. And actually, I did contact them. They updated the website. See, so I'm going to put that in the chat so you guys can click on the link, and you can register. You can select whichever one you want. The spiral bound book, which is the $35, which includes the regular membership. And if you want the $38, I'm sorry, $38 for the spiral bound book and $35 for the paperback book. So you can definitely sign up and spread the word if you know anybody else that may be interested in joining the IAABO chapter. This is what we do. We basically, for right now, we just started back in the fall of 2023, and we haven't. This is our second monthly meeting we've had, because we actually started right at the beginning of the basketball season. Of course, as officials, we're kind of like all over the place working games and things like that. So this is our second meeting. We did have a meeting last month. So for those that missed last month's meeting, don't worry. You didn't miss you missed some information, but it's basically the same thing that we're repeating as far as the membership renewal. So make sure that you do that as soon as possible, because we have to submit that, because they need to figure out how many books they need to order for each chapter. So the sooner you can get that paid, you can pay it online. They just updated it. I'm looking at it actually right now. So you can guys go on there. You can pick whichever one you want to do. So I just put it in the chat. You can click on the link, scroll towards the bottom. You'll see two options. It'll say primary board 267 Chicago area, IAABO membership $35, which will be the paperback book. And the other one, the spiral bound book, same book, but it'll be spiral bound for $38. So you can pick whichever one you want, and that'll cover your membership. Your membership is basically will allow you access to training videos, all access to the membership package, which I did send a link in the email. You can go back and review. They have a video that covers what the membership includes. You can check that out as well for those that are new. For those that are returning, renewing your membership, don't forget, we're trying to encourage everybody to reach out and try to, talk to new members and talk to potential members, because we want to grow our membership in the Chicago area. They do not have to live in the Chicago area necessarily. They can live wherever, anywhere in the country. It's just that when we do obviously our face-to-face meetings and things like that, obviously it would be probably difficult for some people to make some of those meetings. But we will have some things going on during the summer that Jeff is going to talk about, where for those that are out of town, if you might be able to come into town during that particular period to participate in our camps, then definitely, take advantage of that, because that'll be a big help to you as well as to us. So without further ado, that's pretty much everything as far as the membership. Again, you can go to the main website, IAABO.org. I'll put that in the chat as well. If you want to just kind of overlook the website and just check it out, and you can get any questions you may have from there. Feel free to reach out to myself or Jeff. We'll try to answer your questions for you. All right. Any questions about the membership before I pass it back to Jeff? No questions about the membership? All right.
Yeah,
So,
really quick. This is Emmanuel. So just to be clear, I signed up. I don't remember choosing one of those options for a book, but I did sign up for a membership. So they're not going to mail me a book. They're going to send them all to you to distribute, or how does that work?
Well, typically they'll mail them. Well, last year they did. So this year that's going to be determined depending on how many people we can get. If the more we can get, obviously, then they'll just ship them to us, and then we can just send them to you guys. But in the past they did mail it out to everybody that signed up. So either way, you'll get your book one way or the other is what I'm saying. And so right now they just need the deadline, everything to be done by May 15th, because they are submitting this out to all IAABO members worldwide. So just so you guys know, we have over 15,000 members worldwide. I think they're actually up to 16,000 in several different countries. Obviously, this organization started on the East Coast in the New York area back in 1921. And so their focus is to teach or enforce the training of basketball officials, whereas the National Federation, or NFHS, they're just responsible for the rules and the guidelines for all sports, for high school sports. So IAABO is focusing on the training aspect, whereas the NFHS focuses on the rules. Is the membership for new members as well? Yes, it is, Tamara. Yes, it is. So anybody can register that wants to become an official or become part of the Chicago area chapter. Again, Jeff is going to kind of cover some of the things that we do. But basically we do meet virtually for right now. We will have some camps during the summer where you guys can come and participate again to increase your knowledge and your experience, officiating some games and things like that. We are not assigners. We're not assigning officials per se to conferences or to work games throughout the season. Our job is focusing on helping just train everybody, help everybody get better. So as far as officiating basketball, so that's our goal. So we've, I kind of found this program back during the pandemic and just kind of spread it the word. Those obviously those of you that are members, I'm sure you can attest to the great resources that IAABO has to offer. I mean, if you like to read, they got the book. If you like to watch videos, they got videos, they got training, they got monthly calls, recordings. I mean, they have a wide variety of things. So definitely check out the website and the video as far as your membership benefits, and you can get more information in regards to that. So who assigns you? So Tamara, I know you're new. I'm not sure if you signed up with IHSA yet. But make sure you guys do that if you are going to be a basketball official in Illinois. Jeff is actually licensed in Illinois and in Indiana. So for those of you all that may be out of state or in the Indiana area, he can talk to you about that. But basically, we're all independent contractors, and your job is to try to get to camps, as many camps as you can, so that you can try to get hired by different assigners. Obviously, you can work whatever schedule is convenient for you to work. So if you only can work, let's say Wednesday, Fridays, then guess what? You can only work Wednesday, Fridays. So if you work for an assigner that has games on Wednesdays and Fridays, that's great. That's to your advantage. If you have assigners, which most assigners have games pretty much 6 to 7 days a week in some cases, you just work wherever you want to work and whenever you want to work. But again, our goal is just to help train officials, so no matter where you work, you're doing it the right way. And that's our goal, and to help people hopefully at some point get promoted to the next level for those that want to get to the next level. So that's our goal. All right. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to Jeff and let you take over from there.
Okay. Thank you, Clarence. Other thing I wanted to share. I thought I had the picture up, but if you register in Illinois for the month of May, you get a discount on the registration. That's for all officials. So if you are, you know, doing multiple sports, you actually get a discount. Also, you know, just a side note, I'm an Indiana official because I have an Indiana residence. I got a discount now where I think they did not have one before. They give a discount for sometimes other states if you have some reciprocity, and they might be some other cases. So, I mean, I don't think that applies to most of us in Chicago, but if you do work Indiana or whatever, you do get some discounts being a licensed official, especially in the same sport that you're licensed in. And then it's normally like $50, I think, one sport, and then it's like 15 each, but you get a discount if you do it through the month of May. Then on June 1st, then it goes back up to what it basically was, 50 for first sport, 15. And then if you don't register by June 31st or June 30th or whatever, then there you pay late fees. So do this as soon as possible, because I was pleasantly surprised about the discount when I think I even added a sport, and I don't think I had to even pay for that sport. I added flag football because, you know, that's a new sport that is coming to Illinois. So I wanted to make sure that I you know, added that, and you know, that was part of something I wanted to do for the future, so you can do it as well with other sports. So, you know, yes, we're training basketball officials, but I will advocate for anybody who wants to do other sport, and we can discuss that at another time. But if you definitely want to join and be a part of another sport, be a part of another sport. Really, really good for you. So, also, in the coming months, we're going to do meetings pretty much monthly. At least that's the goal. And this is partly going to be based off of our schedules and what we have going on. There's a lot going on. I know for the next couple months, I am extremely busy and will be out of town multiple times. So we will try to schedule a meeting sometime at least once a month. We won't announce all of them because this is so fluid and everything is changing, but we will announce it, and it'll probably be in the middle of the week, kind of like what we're doing. And then when the season starts, or right before the season, we will probably maybe have a couple meetings. The goal is to have a couple meetings probably a month in those situations, or maybe, you know, depending on what our need is. If you guys want more meetings like once a week, we can do that. If you want meetings like once a month, we can do that. But again, our goal is to do some training for you to answer questions and to kind of go over things. We also, I want to make this very clear, we're not trying to replace your other organizations that you belong to. For especially the newer officials, it's good to be a part of multiple associations. I'm probably a part of, at least in Illinois, 4, I think, excluding IAABO. So, and some of them I'm on the board of, and I'm a co-chair on another one. But our goal is not to prevent you from going to those meetings and attending those things. Those are still good. We just want to do something a little different, maybe that the other ones don't do, and that, you know, we can kind of get into some deeper things to help you. And we also, you know, as I said, we'll figure this out as the time goes on, but we'll try to figure out if we can do some, you know, classes related to some of the training that IAABO has put out there, so that you can so especially for the newer officials, so we can go over some things and help you learn how to do some things before the season starts. So that's also a goal of ours. Unless there's any questions about that, I guess that's all I needed to say about that one. We do have an announcement for a camp, and the information is not up on the website, but it will be here very soon. On, I want to say, June 15th and 16th. Forgive me if I'm giving the absolute run. As like 15th, 16th. It's a Saturday, Sunday, or no, Friday, Saturday. We are going to do a camp related to we're going to start it with 3-person, but depending on who we get, we may have some 2-person elements to it. The camp will be held at Ridgewood High School for those 2 days. It's associated with the basketball league related to that. And we'll send out the information. I'll have the specifics on it, but and the sign up information. Basically, what we need, we don't need a ton of people. We just need probably anywhere around 20 people. So if there's even people you don't know, or that aren't a part of us that wants to attend, it's free. I think I'm only going to charge like $25 for the camp, and mostly because it will help cover some costs and some stuff for the kids. So it's not going to be very expensive, but we will do clinic credit. I will offer that because I'm a clinician. I can offer that as well. So anybody you know that just needs just some training on the floor, and also needs some clinic credit for the IHSA, just for the newer officials, within the first year, you are supposed to go to a clinic, uh, to not be on probation. I think if you don't go to clinic the first year, you're on probation for that year until you go to the clinic. Then you're off of probation. If you don't go into it, then I think they will require you to go to a clinic, or they will suspend your license. And you can go to any kind of clinic. It just means you just have to go it to in the, I think, within your first year. I'm on the committee for the IHSA officials conference, which is held in the middle of July. As well, I forgot to put this on here. And I do the new beginning officials with Lori Jordan, who is over who's the IAABO. It's a local official association of associations. She's the president, or has been the president over that, and we run a new officials class for all sports for the Illinois High School Association, and there are officials that come from all over the state that come to that. That is held in Normal West High School. It's held every year. We'll hold it again. It's a really good event to go. It's one day. You can come, and then you can see the award ceremonies and stuff for the official of the year and stuff like that. So that's another thing put on your agenda to go. If you've never been before, I would suggest you go at least once to see what it's like, because there's a lot of officials in multiple sports, and they have camps and sessions related to the sport that you want to go to. And obviously we're basketball, so it'd be good if we were represented very well through our association. Another thing I am trying to do to officially, and hopefully I can do this this year, is get our association, IAABO, as a official Illinois licensed association as well. If I can't do it, we'll definitely do it next year, but I'm in the process. They kind of want a lot of information, and I'm trying to see if I can get all that, or if it won't stop us from becoming one, so that we could be licensed, so we can, have, so anything that we do, it's within the realm of the IHSA as well. But again, you don't have to be an IHSA official to be a member. Just, that's just another option for us as well. And I don't know if there's any questions. I'm gonna Clarence, check the chat for me to see if there's any.
Yeah, everything's good so far. Before you get going, I just want to also introduce Tracy Carruthers, who's a state final IHSA state final official, who's on the call, as well as Donna Mobley. Both of them, as well as Jeff, all three of them are state final officials. I'm not sure if anybody else on here is a state finals official. If you are, please speak up and just introduce yourself real quickly so we'll know who you are. Definitely want to pay respects to those who have actually made it down to the state finals and worked the state final championships, either on the boys or girls side for IHSA. So just want to, acknowledge them as well. So just to, for those that are new, one thing you'll learn in this industry, you will see a lot of faces at different games in different parts of the city, state, suburbs. And, so eyes will always be watching you. Just remember that eyes will always. And even if it's not one of us, it's somebody else is gonna say, "Hey, do you know Tamara? She says she's from Chicago." Like, "Oh yeah, I know who that is." So word gets around, so people talk. So just be
Yes,
nice.
it does. Because I've just been to a couple camps in 2 different states, and I had people that asked me about people that were in Chicago. They knew people that I knew, because I just said, I tell them I'm from Hammond, but then when I tell them I'm from Chicago, and they're like, "Oh, do you know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually know that person very well." So our name does ring out. So let's make sure we represent ourselves well, but be aware there's always, just like Clarence said, there's always somebody watching. So. If there are any other questions, I wanted to get briefly into the new rules that came out. Now, if you're not aware, the new rules has probably been all over Facebook and social media, and then there's been some YouTube videos made about it. But there are some new rules that came out, and actually, what's very interesting is the rules came out early this year because I think last year specifically they came out in June. They meet the committee for new rules meets like in April. They meet the first full week of April. They work like 3 or 4 days, and then usually it takes them a little bit of a month or a little over a month to bring out the new rules. So the new rules did come out. So I wanted to show. Can everybody see my screen with the National Federation? Can you see that?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure. Okay. But I just wanted to go through them a little bit. I mean, we don't have all the information. So let me make something very clear. There's probably going to be questions and stuff that will be raised or that you're thinking of. I'm just want to give a brief perspective on a couple of the rules that were coming out and say, and just so it's something you think about. So as you work your summer games, as you work these off-season opportunities, you can kind of think of how these things may play into part. But with all, when they announce the rules, they always announce them, and they don't get into they don't always get into details about how they're going to change certain other rules that were in place. They'll tell you what they are. They'll tell you if it changes something, but sometimes it has other ramifications that we don't know about. And so the very first rule, or the probably the biggest change, is the flopping rule. And flopping has been addressed. Now, there's been people that will contend that flopping has always been in our rule. There was a rule 10-4-6F that talked about faking being fouled, but they never, ever backed up that interpretation with case plays or interpretations or whatever. And the only reason I say that because it was considered a player technical foul. And this is why this is important, because now they have actually addressed flopping directly. Flopping was never a word that they used in the rule book, but now they are now involving that. So as you can see here, if you look at the screen, it says under flopping will be defined under 4-49-1. It will have actually a definition. And I think this is also good because a lot of people have assumed that flopping only really kind of involved a block charge play where a kid, acts like they got run over, maybe when they didn't, or they embellished that contact more so than normal. Well, now we actually have a definition. So I think that this is a good rule because at least now it can be addressed. But it basically talks about, exaggerating, basically trying to fake the action that you were there, the illegal contact took place that really didn't. And we're going to have to now officiate that a little differently than before. Before, we might have just said, in like a block charge situation, we might have just blocked it because that was just a philosophy. Some people said, I'm not going to let you benefit from it. And now we actually have a definition or a ruling on it. Now, if it happens, this is where the biggest change part of it is. They have added a warning associated with it. I don't want to get too deep into what other levels do, but I think women's college has a warning. Men's college for a few years had a warning, but they went straight to a technical foul. I don't want to get too deep into it. They have a different classification of technical foul, but now we have a warning. So the first action is a warning to the team, like we have a warning for if they mess with the ball out of bounds or whatever the case. Now, the part that I don't know, or the part that is not clear, is we're not sure if it's associated with those other warnings. That's why I'm talking about we don't know the ramifications. It may be a warning unto itself that only involves flopping, and then if the second act takes place, it's a technical foul. Well, the thing that also makes it interesting is now they, because people were arguing over what faking being fouled meant, now the warning is a team, or the warning is to the team, but then if we have a technical foul, it's a technical foul to the team. Now, the reason why that is big is it basically means that it will never be associated with the player that did it. So if the player does it 3 or 4 times, and let's say he gets a warning the first time, and then he does it again, well, it's a technical foul to the team. It's the same kind of team technical that excessive timeout would be, or same as if we had 6 on the floor. It doesn't go to anyone in particular, doesn't go to the coach. So please don't penalize a coach and say they got to sit down because they get a technical for this. It basically kind of says it is a team foul, and that's, and then, but the warning has to come first. Okay. So that's a big change. It's probably the biggest change. They've asked the last couple of years in surveys about this, and now they've seemed to have corrected that situation. Now, again, I don't know all the ramifications. This is just early thought process. I think this will make it pretty easy for us to rule on and call, because it's almost like a gimme. Doesn't hurt anybody other than the team losing the ball and the ball at the division line. So that's the other thing. Any questions about that flopping? Just any concerns, whatever. I don't mind addressing that, because this is the big change. This is something that we're probably going to have to start ruling on in the summer. And I know if we have our camp, I probably would want you to consider that as a rule. So any questions about those type of things?
Is there a mechanic, a signal added? Is it the same one everybody else uses as well?
There is not officially at the time that that I'm talking about this, but there is some talk that they are going to add something, or they may add something. And also, here's the other thing that is the ramifications of this too, because flopping can be done by an offensive player or a defensive player. At the other levels, they've made it very clear how they want that to be officiated. So if the offense does something like they mentioned here as a head bob, they want us to stop that play immediately and give them a technical, or give them a technical foul, or give the warning, or whatever the case. If the defense does it, let's say they think they got pushed off and they act like they got pushed off, excuse me, they want you to continue to let the play continue until the play is complete. So, for example, if the defender acts like he got fouled, he got pushed off, and he falls, we can let the offense keep the ball and still go to the basket or do what they need to do. And then when possession, either team gets it, then we can rule the technical foul, or in the case. Now, at the other levels, they got some classification about when technicals and who gets the ball and stuff like that. So basically, you call it technical, it's punitive. They lose the ball and they get the free throws. So that has not been stated, but I've been told in a roundabout way that they are working on some plays to deal with that. So we don't have all the answers. I would assume they're going to probably do what the college rules did to some extent, of the interpretation about that, but I don't have that for sure. So I would say, let's just use good common sense. If we're doing the practice, the main thing is to get in the habit of maybe ruling on it. And maybe if we do a good job this summer, we don't have to call a whole bunch of them during the year, because they've already seen the ramifications of it. But, that's wishful thinking. But at least we know that is something there. So they may put in a signal, the men's college signal. We kind of have like we throw our arms down. I think that's the signal in women's college as well. But as of right now, they've not added anything specifically. But there's, they may add something, and or they may not add anything this year, and then maybe the next year they'll realize they need to add something. So I hope that answers the question. Any other questions about that? Any other concerns about flopping specifically? Okay. If there are none about flopping, let's get into some of the other ones. They changed the rule, and I'm not going to get into detail, 343A, basically allowing a logo to be in a certain place just as long as there's a number in the front and the back. That's really not much of our concern. We'll see diagrams on that. If there is a new note now for the shot clock, now remember, shot clock in Illinois is not implemented unless it's a high school tournament, like a holiday tournament or a shootout, and there's a 35-second clock. Now they've actually put it in the rule where they've eliminated the 5-second closely guarded while the player is dribbling. So that used to be a big debate. And usually, for those that don't know, it's usually the bigger tournaments that do it. The holiday tournament like York or Hinsdale Central or Proviso West, for example, all had used a shot clock, or at least I know York did and Proviso West has the last few years. So now we don't have to argue about that. It's in the rule if this is the case. Now, we don't know if it's coming in full swing in Illinois, maybe for a year or two. Kurt Gibson, who is the outgoing boys basketball administrator, made some comment that he thinks it might come in a couple years if fully. I think he has some intel on that. Maybe there's some push to that they're waiting to see if they can get everybody in place. But if you're in Chicago area, hell, you can just look around gyms, and now they've put up the shot clock. At least there's a shot clock in the area on most baskets or somewhere in the gym, so they could have it. So a lot of the Chicago area is for it. My understanding is Chicago, the bigger schools are more they're more advocates for the shot clock. The smaller schools tend to not be. So I don't know if that will come into play, but at least now we have a new rule that will take place that will mention that. So any questions about that briefly? If not, okay, moving on. 119 just talks about them using electronic devices. A few years ago, they allowed them to use electronic devices where for years they were not allowed to. Now they are, just some basically telling it how they can use it and what purposes they can use it, and they can't use it for voice or video recording. It's prohibited on the benches. That's not a big deal, but it could come up. So bottom line is, if a coach comes to you with a play and says, hey, Jeff, you missed that play, I got it on film, that's illegal. But if they want to keep something for stats or whatever, they can, as long as they're using it for coaching purposes and not injecting it with us. That's the bottom line to that. 21111 talks about multiple scores at the scores bench, not responsible for comparing records. Just kind of some more information that's really not big for us, because it probably won't. It's only if the schools are going to do this or the teams are going to do this, but it's just some little things that kind of modify those rules. Rule 3-3-6. I think this is kind of a bigger one that we need to pay attention to. So now if we have a player that is injured and we have stopped play because this player is injured, we have to now, well, we don't have to. If we decide that it's serious enough and we beckon the coach on, before they could kind of refuse this, or they could kind of say, oh, let me wait. I don't think he might be okay. She might be okay. That might be, and it wasn't a big deal. Now, if we say, nope, coach, I need you to come out there, they have to come out the game. They're considered beckoned. They have to take them out. So it puts a little more of a little responsibility on us to do this properly. And again, I don't think it really changes anything that we did anyway, because I didn't bring guys on. If I thought, even if you stop playing, they get right back up, then maybe we keep playing. But if we've decided we stop it and it's serious enough, and we're talking, not a broken bone, we're talking about some visible injuries. If there's obviously some visible injuries, we're getting them. But if there's something where they turned an ankle, they fell, and then they, we're not sure, then if we beckon them on, they got to come out the game. That's the big change there. Another rule change kind of involves this a little bit. Before, if they had a bleeding player or bleeding was on the uniform, there was no provision for them to stay in the game. Now, which is basically they adopted a college rule, they have 20 seconds to correct it. So once we've identified a kid has a scrape on the arm or bleeding on the jersey or something like that, they can go to the trainer or to the coach, whoever wants to do it, not us, not for new official, do not be a part of this. It's not your job. If they have blood on their jersey or blood on their arm or blood on their body some way, even if it's from another player, they have 20 seconds to correct it. If they can correct it within 20 seconds, they can stay in the game. If they can't correct it within 20 seconds, my understanding is they have to sit out, or a coach can burn a timeout like the rules said before, and if it's corrected by the end of the timeout, then they can come back in the game. So this is basically a college rule. It's a good rule, because usually we would have sometimes a scrape or something that would be so minor that, we would see. And if they could bandage it up and, clean it up and there's no more bleeding, in 20 seconds, it can be done. So that's I think a good change. Another change for 6-1 with basket interference. This was another college rule change. I'm saying this because it seems like the committee in the past never wanted to do college rules. They now seem to be very open to doing college rules, and this is another one. 4-6-1 basically says that if they touch the net and it plays no role in the ball being influenced or the basket being influenced in any way, we are now to ignore that. That was actually a men's college rule that they brought into place a few years ago, and there's a lot of times where they touch the net and nothing happens, and now we're not to decide if he touched the net, is the ball in the cylinder, did it hit the ball? Like, no, if it doesn't do anything, doesn't pull the net, doesn't influence the ball, we can ignore it. Now that is in the fridge. Now that's what a lot of us did anyway. Be honest with you. But now we have rule support to do that. Any questions about that? Okay. And then collection of changes with the delays, warning for delays, the ball's immediately passed in, any subsequent team technical foul. I think what they mean by this is I think they're basically addressing the other warnings that took place and how this am I reading this right? Not passed by the official whistle sounds. Yeah. So basically, just talking about the warning for the other delays, and if it's not they added a delay if you don't, when the play is over, they don't give the ball to the official. Now, I would say don't nitpick this, but some officials did this anyway, but it was never an official warning. Now it's an official warning. So basically, if the ball's over and they decide, let's say, and what I've seen some kids do, like they'll take the ball and put it down on the floor. Well, technically, if they've done that and they didn't give it to an official, that's a warning. Or it is a warning now. It wasn't before. Some people would give it a warning, but that was probably improper. But now it kind of goes along with what the circumstance of what we were doing. So not a big change, but just something minor. And then 7-1-1, established players cannot be assisted by a team member or benched outside the boundary lines to remain in bounds. This probably never is going to come up unless you have a player that goes into the bench area. And basically, I wouldn't even nitpick this. I think that they're basically saying they just don't want you to be like, hey, stay in the game or get back in the game. But if you're going to have players, they go into the bench and they're leaning on players. Kids are not going to want, or coaches are not going to want kids all in their face and whatever. They're probably going to push them back on the court. I don't think that's what they mean. We'll probably get more clarification with this, but basically they don't want you to push them back onto the court or keep them outside. Maybe the situation for the I don't know, maybe the situation in the national championship game with the UConn player and the coach where you try to push them onto the court. Maybe that's what they're talking about, but I'm sure they'll give some clarification if that applies to this situation. And then I think the other big one, and this is the one I really love, the pregame violations with the teams. Basically, they have addressed some situations with if we have multiple violations with the book for both teams, it's considered a double foul. We don't, it's the same penalty, they offset, and just so the newer officials know, they have to have all their stuff in the book before 10 minutes. At least in a normal setting game, some of the lower level games, they may not have that clock up. But at a normal game or a varsity game or a sophomore game where they've run down the clock, if they don't get their stuff in by a certain time, it's a technical foul. Well, now they've kind of said, well, no, it's not one technical foul at this time and one technical foul at this time. They're considered double fouls. And then also just for newer officials and other officials, if you have multiple violations of this, it's still one technical foul. It's a team technical foul, doesn't hurt the coach. The coach doesn't lose the coach's box, none of that stuff. Just simply, it's a wash. The other part of it that they also added, which I think is great, this is probably the best part. Pre-game dunking is still by rule illegal. But if we have one, now they are no longer considered bench personnel, and it no longer goes towards the coach in some way. Now, for officials who maybe didn't understand the rule very well, if if let's say a team didn't like their coach very much, and one after the other dunks the ball. Last year or previous years, that would be one technical foul per player. And because they were considered bench personnel, they would get one indirect to the coach. So by rule, if it was 3 players or more, that coach would be ejected or disqualified based off of that rule, which was a horrible outcome to some extent because, and it also, I think, prevented us from calling those fouls. So now, if we call a dunk, it's no longer a player technical, and it's no longer a bench personnel technical. So the coach can stand. We just have to shoot the amount of free throws or the technical, give the amount of technical fouls for foul purposes to start the quarter. And obviously it doesn't carry over to the second half or second quarter. So if it's the first quarter and there's 3 of them that dunk, it'll be 3 on their board against that team as team fouls to 0. Now, the same applies if it's the other, if they all do it. I think they also are talking about this being offset. So let's just say we have 1 and 1 and they both dunk different times. The penalty is the same. It's a wash, but they still get the technical fouls. They get them up on the board. It's a team technical foul. And then we would still jump the ball up if it was equal penalty. If it's offsetting penalty, like 2 and 1 or 3 and 1, then we would shoot the amount that is above what the ones offset. So I think that's a great change. And if you notice that they're kind of seem to be going away from some technicals that would penalize players as opposed to penalizing coaches or somebody else, just a team technical. And that is pretty much it for that. Are there any questions about that? I know I haven't heard anybody talk in a while, so let me know if that is something that you are not understanding or ask a question about. So I explained that beautifully.
No, my only, so just for clarification on the flopping on the offense, if it's the offense, we kill that immediately. Defense, we let it play on and give the offense opportunity to finish the play, then call it.
That is what they do at the other levels, and that's clearly defined, but it may not be defined that way at the high school level. So I want to be careful saying that that is what they're going to do. I think common sense would say to do that, but they may have a ruling that they want us to immediately kill that play and call the technical foul. But there's already precedent in the rules about technical fouls. Like, for example, if a coach pops off to you and then the other team is going to the basket, there's actually a casebook play where they want you to let the play finish, then give the technical foul. So if he calls you all kind of, stupid MFs and that team is driving to the basket, let them drive to the basket, make the basket, miss the basket, whatever, get the rebound, whatever, then go, okay, coach, whack. Like, we got you now for that. I would assume that is going to be the same application. I could be wrong, but I was told by a committee member very specifically that they are looking into case plays and examples to clarify that. And I was very specific because that's one thing I was curious about, because at the college level, we have a clear procedure. We may not at the high school level. And historically, just so y'all know, National Federation has a tendency that they'll adopt a rule, but then they won't give any more support for it. Or they won't do what the other level does because maybe they feel it's too complicated, or maybe it's going to mess up some other procedures and they're reluctant to do it. But this committee, at least the last 2 years, have adopted college rules that they pretty much took on the rule and didn't parse what they do at the other level, so it wasn't drastically different. So I'm going to assume that's going to be the case, but don't quote me on that. We could find out when the books come out and they're doing something completely different. So, but
just so you guys know, the newbies that's on the call, our new books typically come out during the fall, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months before the season starts. So that's when the new rule books will come out for the 24-25 season. So just FYI.
And they usually, and the National Federation usually produces the book sometimes in late July early. Well, basketball, they'll do maybe September, early October. So we'll have some information, and then also keep in mind when they announce these rules, these are just the raw what they've done. They actually will have more explanations. They will come out in the next few weeks with some more explanations about what they're doing. So maybe we'll get some clarification on what they're going to do. And we won't be totally in the dark until the books come out. There will be some information that will be, and also there'll probably be some publications from NASO that will cover this too as well, because they did a really good job with the last rule with the designated spots on the floor. I thought they did a real good job with that. So we'll have information. It's just as of right now, we just know we got a flopping rule. We got some of these rules, but some of these we will not know the details on. So that is all I have for that. Any questions or anything for the good of the group for right now? I do have something. We're gonna get into the other things, but I want this to be an open dialogue, guys. So tell me anything that there might be a question on or something, because I know I'm not perfect with this.
Just FYI too, just for those that are on the call, she probably don't want me to say this, but Donna is on the IHSA board. So I don't know if you might want to just mention anything from your perspective, Donna, that maybe is happening at the IHSA level that we may need to be aware of coming up, or that they got going on.
So we had the meeting last Wednesday. Went over if you're in association, and I was telling Clarence this, that you can actually apply for, they have grants to fund associations and things that they need for training. And we were just going over that. What's coming up is now a proposal that's coming about retired officials and using them and trying to make them clinicians, and not so much just let them walk away from the sport that they're in, but to give back and come in and actually do help with some of the training since they have the time and won't be on the court. And also now they're sending out, I think it's 4 officials that they're talking about that's going to different sections of the state and doing evaluations with, I guess, I'm not gonna say they didn't want to say up and comers, but going into the gyms and actually physically seeing officials work. And they starting out pilot program, and they're going to look to expand. And that's another role with the some of the retirees to try to do that. So that was all that we were talking about last week.
Okay, awesome.
Are they, Donna, are they going to, was there any talk about changing the overall system in the future, or was that just adding the evaluators or potential evaluators?
That was just a added, I guess because Kurt and whoever, they just can't do it. So they're pretty much almost like a mentor. They're pretty much trying to groom them. It wasn't part of the evaluations. Even with that, they actually going back to seeing if the associations, that they're trying to put the associations back into the mix of how folks get selected as well. They haven't figured it out, and it's just going to be a tug of war for the most part for probably the next some odd years, since they haven't announced who's going to take over for Kurt.
Okay.
Did they say if they interviewed anybody for the position to replace Kurt?
He wouldn't say. He just giggled. He wouldn't say.
So well, I can add to that a little bit. I had and I don't mind saying this now, I had a conversation with Kurt during the girls' state finals near the end. And I know that they have hired somebody from close to my hometown, my original hometown, out of Monmouth, Illinois. They hired somebody to take his spot, if you will, but that means they have these assistant directors, assistant directors, and they hired somebody for the spot, but they have not decided who who the basketball person was going to be specifically to take over the boys basketball. Beth Sauser will obviously, I think, will keep her spot as the girls supervisor or administrator, and whoever they decide, I don't know if they're hiring anybody else for that, but they didn't, but that person that they hired out of Monmouth is not a basketball person. He has no basketball background. And usually they for certain sports, they want people that have a background in that sport, not somebody that is, that like this, he's a baseball guy and I think a wrestling guy or something like that. And so he has no, but so it probably will be somebody that's already in the office. And obviously there's been rumors about who that person might be, but they haven't decided that yet. So that's all I have from the inside of that. So I think we won't find out until, and Kurt, I think, doesn't retire until I think the end of June, if I'm not mistaken. So he's retiring. So I don't think he's actually giving it up. So maybe they have already got someone in mind and they will put him in that place, or maybe they'll wait until maybe later in the summer to decide who that person will be. So a lot of changes coming, guys. So I think that's a good bit of information, Donna, because I think that was something I had talked to some people about they wanted some clinicians to be more involved in a process of getting people into the postseason. Anything else or any other?
Yeah. One more thing. So now, another issue that came up was sending unlicensed officials to do lower level games, and it was like, well, how do they was putting it back on the ADs at the schools of about picking up unlicensed lower level officials to officiate the lower level games, and that's when we was coming in with the ratings. So they were also talking about now they're going to send out the ratings and they did a pilot, send them to the officials, I mean the coaches, and have email of the games that's coming in, and hey, you have to respond by such and such time. They said they didn't want to bombard them like right after a game, but hey, you get this in within a 2-week period, so the ratings they can start rating at a better rate. So that was another thing that came up. I forgot about that. So they've already started with a couple coaches at a couple school districts with a pilot where it's sending out the mass emails about them going in to rate officials that were on their games.
So excuse me, are they saying they're gonna give them 2 weeks to rate you?
Well, that was just a pilot, because now it's either you go in or you don't. So now they're going to send out the reminder. Hey, and they were asking about a timeline, about it, and he was saying, you got a heated game. Some coach may not like you. They don't want it. They want a cooling down period. That way they can really evaluate what you did and this and that. They're not just going in all hothead and then giving you, poor ratings and things like that. And then it was another about the grading system, the 1 through 5. And he said across the board, they pretty much getting 3. So they want a little bit more detail. And why did you give the high rating or why did you give the low rating, to explain. So that way it's not so much calculated, but at least they have an explanation about what this one did with the high rating and what he did to cause the low rating.
Yeah, because 2 weeks is a long time. You think they playing 2-3 times a week, they might be forgot about how their game was.
Well, that's why they wanted to send the email, the reminders, so that would keep them on top. And like I said, it was just a pilot program with a couple school districts that they started with. And you say even with that, the ratings was they still were low. They wasn't even at 40% with the ratings coming back in.
Okay.
I think it's gonna just take time. It's gonna take time for coaches to kind of get back on the, the responsibility of rating officials. Will it ever get to 100%? Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, basically, that's at least that idea sounds somewhat progressive compared to what we've been doing for the last couple of decades. Some coaches don't do any ratings at all, and there was no reinforcement from the IHSA level for them to do a rating other than just saying, hey, don't do your rate, which is not really much of a reminder when coaches got to deal with teams and traveling and games and all that other stuff. So hopefully it can make a little bit of progress. But like I said too, I think it's kind of on us as officials just to remind coaches, say, coach, can you please make sure you rate us? Because I mean, let's be honest, if you don't really remind them, they probably not gonna do it. The reminder at least triggers their memory to say, oh yeah, let me go rate the officials, hopefully, but that's still no guarantee, but it's better than nothing.
Well, and remember, we have a responsibility, guys, to put our numbers in the book when we do varsity games. So, and again, this rating is only for varsity games. So if we don't put our numbers in the book, then it's not available to them. I don't know that I want to say more after that I do it, just because it's just the way that causes other issues if you mention something about the ratings, in my opinion. But also keep in mind, guys, we have 35 points that are dedicated to our postseason playoffs. 5 points is the ratings. So that means 30 other things, or 30 points, doesn't affect that particular rating. Or I guess we got another 5 because we got the top 15 list, but they got to have that top 15 list in by December, like the first week of December. Like it's usually around December 7th. It could be like December 8th or something like that, but they got to do that before that. So after that, they can't put in another top 15 list, or if they do, it goes to the next year. So our responsibility is make sure that we put the right information in the book, that it's legible, that they know if they want us to sign it. But I'm gonna say this, and maybe Tracy and Donna could all back us up and back me up with this. Them ratings don't matter as much as you think they do, because if they, especially now, if they're doing stuff like bringing out people to evaluate guys and this and the other, if they identify somebody, they identify them, and they will do what they can to put them in situations. I won't mention names, but I've known people who never worked a regional final who got a sectional the very next year because of where they were and where their need was. Had nothing to do with a rating per se. And even when I worked my last state finals, my ratings were the lowest they had been out of the other state finals, and I worked the 4A championship game. It's not as big of a deal as you think. You want to get in the process, yes. You want to get a lot of ratings. It's actually what you want is as many ratings as you possibly can get, because that will help your number. But whether that one coach gives you a 1 or a 4 almost doesn't mean anything. It's just the fact that they rated you. You get a bunch of 4s and I got 2 ratings and they were 1s, you're better off statistically than I am, who got the 2 1s. So you want to get as many ratings, but the ratings are a problem because they're not rating. My ratings were probably some of the lowest that they've been overall in the last few years, even though my overall percentiles are pretty high, but they've been going down, especially since COVID. It really ruined everything. So keep that in mind. So any other questions or comments before we go into this last part for the group? Anything, people? Anything, Donna, you want to add? Tracy.
I have one more. So on the when you were talking about the technical before the game, the one other rule change that they have is now we go start back off with a jump ball, instead of before it was always going to the offended team after they shot the
if they don't offset.
Right.
If they don't offset, let's say we have one dunk on one side, another dunk on the other side, or we got 2 book situations, if the penalty is the same, then we go to the jump ball, because now it's not a double foul by rule. That's the situation. But if it's one dunks on the other end, the other ones don't dunk, then they lose the ball just like they did before. But the best part of it, it's no longer a player technical. It's no longer a coach bench technical. So now we don't have to argue. We don't have to argue with the coach about them sitting on the bench now for the rest of the game because your stupid player decided he wanted to, put on a dunk line before the game. But if they dunk 4 or 5 times, we give a technical for each one. It's just no more player technical or bench technical. That's the best part of that change. So
we just going with team technicals at that point.
Yes. And then if they do 3 or 4, then 3 or 4 fouls will get you in the bonus or the penalty.
They'd be in the bonus before the game starts.
That's right.
Yep. Yep.
Oh wow.
So, and I think that will free us. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna free me a little bit because there were times when I didn't want to call that at all. Like even when I heard it or saw it. Now I'm probably gonna be like, forget that. Just now, because now you're going to lose the ball. Tell your dumb kids to stop doing that. You should have told them that. Instead of what I had a few years ago, the very first game of the year, dunk. And I'm like, and then I had to spend 10 minutes to argue with this coach about why he has to sit down. But it's the first game of the year. Now we ain't got to do that no more. So I think that's a good thing. So, okay. Any other questions or comments before we get into how to break down film?
Any questions? Anybody? Any comments?
Well, I don't know if this is a spot for not random questions, but questions a little bit off topic. But you sparked the thought earlier when you said we're independent contractors. Do we have to carry insurance? Is anybody carrying insurance, or is that a thought? Or
wait, say that again so I understand.
Asking about as a contractor, do we have to carry insurance?
Oh, we get insurance by being an IHSA official.
Gotcha.
You get it automatically. It's already within our due structure. You get it immediately. And matter of fact, and sometimes we might need to do a little more investigation on it. That's a good question. But I think it even applies to the sports regardless of the level that we do. So, for example, if you do middle school basketball, you will get covered because you have that insurance. Now, there's some additional coverage you can get through NASO, I know, and I think even IAABO was talking about doing something with some insurance as well. There was some talk that we had preliminary when we started this, that they may give us some insurance. So if we do another sport, another level other than high school, we can get covered. So like if you do a rec game or whatever, and something happens during that game, you are covered from a liability standpoint and also a game check standpoint as well. So, but maybe that's something we need to investigate, or I need to find out about. Maybe Donna can shed some light on that in a meeting or something. But basically we get, we already get insurance, but NASO has some additional ones that can replace game checks. And I know that, so if you get hurt and you got to miss like the rest of the season, you can get a part of your game check fees that based off of what you had contracted. So that is something that, I would take advantage of. I've known a couple people that have taken advantage of, lost part of their season, and they got some game checks, or they got some money, so they didn't lose all their money that they were going to make. Now, they won't give you everything, and I think you got to go through an underwriting process. I sell insurance, so, there's still, you got to prove some of this stuff, but as long as you have some contracts and stuff like that, and the injury happened legitimately during the game or somewhat during the game, I think you can get your money back. But the main part of the liability covers us. So if we have a legal issue, so for example, a kid gets hurt in your game and you have nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with it per se, but they may sue everybody that's associated. Let's say Len Bias, or not Len Bias, I'm sorry, the one from not Len Bias, the one who Loyola Marymount, that Hank Gathers. When Hank Gathers had that situation happen and he died on the court, the family sued everybody. They sued doctors that were in the stands. They sued everybody. And really what you want is the insurance to cover your, so if you got to go to court, I can defend this. And it might get thrown out immediately, but you still got to go to court. You still got to take off work. You got to put some expense into it. That's kind of what it will cover.
And another thing too, and I know we don't talk about this a whole lot, but you know, being an independent contractor, you need to treat this as a business. Yes, it's a lot of fun, you network and things like that, but treat this as a business. You may want to, and you know, get a business name, put it in an LLC, you know, all of those types of things. I know at the college level and pro level, a lot of the guys do that. They, you know, and ladies, they put their refereeing or officiating occupation as a business. So that way, all funds, you know, expenses come out of that business account. You know, then that way you are covered legally. So that way they can't sue you personally and go after your personal assets and house, car, family, retirement, check, all that stuff. They have to go after the business. So, and that's something we can cover later. And actually, I've actually reached out to Nassau about that, specifically about the insurance part of it. I'm gonna have to schedule a meeting with them so they can kind of go over it in detail. But I did put the link in the website in the chat, and you can kind of read through it as far as the insurance part of it. Feel free to look at the Nassau website. That's the National Association that's the National Association of Sports Officials. That's their main website. So they offer officiating information, coverage, and all of that type of stuff for officials all over the country, all over the world, for different sports. So it doesn't matter what sports you do, if you do multiple sports or just one sport. Like Jeff said, if you know you leaving home, going to a game, and you get in a car accident, but you're going to a game, you could potentially be covered up to a certain percentage and all that kind of stuff. And a lot that type of thing. And actually, just a real quick story, in 2014, I actually got into a car accident right after doing the game. And you know, fortunately enough, I had insurance and they covered my game loss for the rest of the season, that, you know, for the games that I missed, as well as, you know, medicals and all that kind of stuff. So my job covered my medical stuff, but Nassau covered, you know, everything else as far as my officiating. So you know, and I was down for like two years. I had to learn how to walk all over again, knee surgery, all that.
Wow.
But yeah, it's good to have your own personal insurance, you know, as far as your job related or whatever. But definitely have insurance for your officiating side of the business. You know, because one thing people don't realize, there's actually been situations where officials have gotten sued for making a call that, you know, people thought was the wrong call.
Mm-hmm.
Much as we think that that's a crazy thing to think of, you know, when I went through my situation, the insurance agent made a comment to me that kind of stuck with me. They said sometimes we don't think about needing our insurance until we're that 1 in a million person that need it. And when you just happen to be that one, you're glad you got it. So, you know, just, you know, cover yourself. Again, treat this like a business, because this is what it is. Yeah, you can make as much money or as little money as you want to make, but treat it like a business and make sure you cover your assets so you don't lose anything in the long run. So, but I did put the national insurance information in the chat. So yes, we do get coverage through IHSA, but also you can get additional coverage through Nassau if you want. Again, I would encourage you to do it. I think it's like for Nassau membership, it might be like 120 something bucks a year at most, something like that, 130 bucks a year. You make that up in a couple of games or a game or two throughout the season. So it's real.
And you can write that off on your taxes. Any expense that you incur that is about your business can be written off on your taxes. I mean, consult your CPA or your lawyers about that, exactly how you do that. But those are expenses. Those are business expenses. It would be no different than if you run a business and you have a brick and mortar, and every little thing that you have to cost to run that business, that could be written off as a part of it. Now, there's ways to do it, and you got to do it properly, but it's a potential for it to be written off. So keep that in mind.
I got a question. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you, Joe.
Yeah, we hear you, Joe.
Hey, yeah. Good evening. Anyway, first off, greetings from Iowa City, Iowa. I'm traveling, so I like the Zoom call. It's a good format. Okay. I didn't know IHSA provided insurance, but thank you for that, Jeff. But my question is the Nassau insurance. Do you know, or have y'all had anybody that's actually used it and how it's worked? I mean,
yes.
I'm just curious.
Yes, I've had people, the exact same thing we were talking about. Someone got into injured on the court and lost games for the rest of the year, and they paid a percentage of that loss, which they was hundreds of dollars, maybe a couple $1,000s in some cases. As long as you have some, record of that you had the game or you were contracted at the time of the injury, you can receive a lot of money. And now, obviously, this depends on like if you did something on an email and you were supposed to work a game and it was, you're supposed to get $50, you may not get that fee because there was no contract. But I have known people to have this happen and have gotten reimbursed for some of their expenses. And again, and your job doesn't necessarily always cover this. I mean, maybe some people like Donna's job or Eddie's job or work with the city, they may have some things that can happen outside of their job that they will be covered for if they lose income. But that doesn't necessarily work with all jobs. I know I'm an independent contractor in my regular job. So if I lose income, I don't get anything back just from my insurance. So, those are things that you just want to be, to think about. But even though my job is not a physical job where I couldn't do some things, I could still do some of the same stuff. But again, it just depends on your situation. But yes, I have known people that did happen. And that's why long story short, why the National Federation, I'd say left the National Federation from what they call full membership, because their insurance, they didn't feel their insurance covered what we were looking for in Illinois. So now we have better insurance through another program. And matter of fact, I do college ball too. RefQuest offers insurance for college games. So I have basically 3 different policies based off of my officiating through, I'd say, Indiana College and then Nassau. So it's and then don't worry about whether I got all of them, one will cover the other. Well, some of them don't cover other specifics. So at least the RefQuest insurance I have covers specifically my college games. So your IHSA one may or may not fully. So keep that in mind too. If you do other levels, it doesn't always apply to every level. It might apply to some of it. So the more you have, the better. So yeah.
And one other thing I would say real quick before we get into the video review, make sure as much as you can, try to get your schedule documented, meaning like say on Arbiter or email confirmation or whatever, because if you do get involved in a situation where you're in an accident or whatever, and you have to rely on that insurance that you pay for, they're going to ask for proof. And that's what they're going to be looking for. You got to have, hard copy, email, text message, something in writing, stating your schedule for them to even consider paying you that money for those games or whatever the situation is. And, also too, you may need a witness too. So if something happens, they're going to say, hey, well, do you have it? Because like for me, ironically, when I left out the game, out the gym, I was at Hyde Park High School, getting ready to go into the parking lot to go to my car after the game was over. Me and my partner happened to walk out the door. He and I were the only ones walking out that door. Had I not had my partner there to be my witness, I would have had to pay everything out of pocket, as far as medical, surgery, this, that, and the other, because the insurance company said you got to have a witness. So, because they knew that was going to be a pretty expensive bill, between surgery and rehab. And, I was out from like January to all the way to like October that year. And then I was off a whole another year after that, trying to go back for therapy. So just imagine trying to pay that out in pocket, so good thing I had a witness, so he was able to, write a letter, a statement, or what have you. And plus I had my schedule that I missed for the remainder of the year, which was hard copy, thank goodness all that was in place. So that was, that was the blessing for me in disguise. But yeah, definitely have your checks and balances in place, because that's what they're going to ask you for. They want everything in writing. So,
and I'm in the insurance industry, and I'll tell you, it doesn't matter what the insurance is. Insurance companies don't like to pay out. They do everything that they can not to pay out. So that's why you need that documentation, because if that happens to you, the more documentation, the better, that it's easier that they'll file the claim without any issue. But if you don't have documentation and you're just saying, well, I had a game on February 23rd, and and you have no documentation that you had the games on 23rd or the 11th or the 5th or whatever, and you missed them, they'll figure out ways not to pay you. And they do that with, forget officiating, they do that with anything. So keep that in mind.
Right. All right, so let's
So-
get into the video plays, Jeff. I know this is what a lot of people want to get on the call and check out. So
Okay.
definitely
All right.
get these.
Well, basically what I wanted to talk about was how to break down video. And
real quick, Jeff, before you get going,
okay,
Donna and Tracy, feel free to chime in too, because I know you
please
guys,
do.
got some good tips too.
Please do. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of run through a little bit of a game, not everything, but just some things to think about. Again, I can answer some more detailed questions. I'm not really gonna, I might show a couple plays that are specific, but I just pick a game that I do now. The thing is, what you need to also keep in mind is now we have Huddle. And now a lot of games are on YouTube as well. So sometimes if you can't get it on Huddle, or have a coach send it to you through Huddle, you can get a lot of games on YouTube. And they're not just doing the varsity games; they're doing the sophomore games too. It just sometimes you just got to do some research to go look for where the game. Some games are on directly on their websites that they show. They streamed it, and it was the YouTube channel or the site that they get them off of or from there. So we really do not have any excuse to not get video for your games. You and if it and do or if the situation happens where you can't get a lot of game tape. I know a lot of us have a spouse or a teenager or a friend. Give them some money and have them go to your game and just take the game and just kind of go through some things and maybe ask them to. I did that really early in my career with somebody I was dating. Went to a Christmas tournament with me and taped I had 8 games in them 3 or 4 days. She did every game. She taped every game, and it was invaluable just to see yourself do certain things, and because the tape doesn't lie. Now we say the tape doesn't lie. What it doesn't lie what you do. It may not lie about. It may not tell the truth totally about a call, but it may tell you some information or show what you look like. So let me I'm gonna try to turn this down because I don't want to go through all of this. So this is a game I did late in the year. Had the and I do some stuff where I do some screen recording, but just kind of shows kind of some things that we do to the game. Now I don't just look at calls if you are watching video to just get your calls right or to validate your calls, you're doing it wrong. Okay. You should never watch a game just to validate your calls. There's a piece of it that you should be doing. Yes, because there's plays that I want to know, like, especially fresh in my mind, I might go to immediately and say, I'm not sure when that happened. I know it happened in the first quarter, the third quarter, and I want to go look at that play. That's fine because but if you're just doing it for that reason, you should not be doing it. So here's a game. I'm the U1 on this game, so I'm up here at the top corner. And sometimes I just want to know, like, okay, am I starting off in the right spot? I don't want to get too detailed into every little position, but am I where I'm supposed to be, at least around the 28-foot mark above the 3-point line? Little things like that might not be a big deal to me personally, but would be a big deal to someone who's watching your game. And because we can't see the other official is in there. So, but again, are you in the basic spot that you're supposed to be according to the book or according to our manual? Now, what's also big, I'll say this, I've had an assign. I'll just say who it was. Joe Spagnola, who assigns the proviso. Well, he signed the Proviso West tournament for a long time. He assigned the Hinsdale tournament. He assigns the Hinsdale tournament now. He said one of the things that he would look at is, what does the U1 do when this ball is in play? So these are another thing I want to know. Am I applying the rule properly? Now, for the newer officials, the U1, either whether it's two-person, if it was two-person, that'd be in front of the bench or off to the side in 3-person. Do you chop the ball at the proper time? So again, just to see, and if you see, I chop it in when the ball's legally touched. Now, some officials, and I thought this when I first started, thought that the rule was that it wasn't until the possession is taking place, like right now. but that's incorrect. It's when the ball's legally touched on the jump ball. And I referenced Joe because Joe would go evaluate officials whether he would consider them for his tournaments. And if he saw someone do this wrong, he might move on. It might be that simple. He might move on to see where, okay, you don't even know that. So I can't even prove that you know the other stuff. So just little stuff like that. Like, am I doing the little things properly? Okay. And now we got a tip. Am I hustling to the spot? Am I getting in position to where I'm supposed to be? Things that I look for is positioning. Am I looking for open looks? Am I looking to get space? Am I counting properly? Am I seeing the plays? Am I making adjustments to the plays? And that's just what I'm looking at for me. So when I watch these videos, am I moving properly? I'm not always worried about a call. I'm just worried about what am I doing? What do I look like? Like now we have an out of bounds play. We're going to the other end. Am I running? Am I walking? Am I hustling? Other little stuff, because these are things that we're, believe it or not, we are judged on sometimes more so than our calls. Our calls are one thing. We're gonna first of all, everybody, we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes for the call. We're gonna make calls wrong. I mean, just look at, we were talking about at the beginning of this meeting how many times they were key plays at the end of the Knicks Indiana game and how many mistakes that could have been made in that game. We're gonna do that, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about, am I watching the right thing? So now, just as a, just kind of something I'm thinking about as I'm watching this, it's really early in the game, the second possession of the game, but am I picking up this matchup? And do I need to move? Is this matchup coming to me, or do I need to move for this matchup? So positioning is key. Am I adjusting? Now, if he would have stayed back a little bit where he was, let's see if I get to that part. If he had passed here, I would want to know, okay, am I coming out on the court to curl up to see this play, or am I coming down to get a look? But he moves immediately. So I made an attempt to move. And then I'm just looking for little signals, am I looking at the right things? Do you see where my head is moving? Am I picking up additional matchups? Any little thing that will tell me, like, okay, am I engaged properly in this play, especially early in the game when you want to first, you don't want it to get late in the game, and then now we have a play. Is it out of bounds? My partner needs help. Am I giving him help? And I'm not only giving him help, am I being sneaky about it? Like, if for new officials, when you're asked for help on an out of bounds play, give the help. Don't be like, give a little, oh, we're going that way. Give the signal, give the information. So he's looking for help, just little stuff like that.
Jeff, can you do me a
go
favor?
on.
Can you go back to the beginning of this play for me? Since we do have some new people on here and this is their
Yes.
first, some of them have kind of got their toes wet in three person a little bit. We've been working with them. Can you just explain the sequence from your being in the C position and like what you're looking at each time that ball is being passed to a different person on different sides of the court?
Okay. Well, first of all, remember our coverage area from the C is we have the lane line extended all the way to the division line on our side of the court and half of the lane. So this is really all our area. So the thing is that we want to do, and this is what you should do in 2-person or 3-person. Anytime you don't have competitive matchups. Now, ask yourself at this point of the game or this point, do I really have any competitive matchups as the C position in my spot? And speak up if you think so or no. Do I have any competitive matchups right now? Okay, probably not. So that means the ball is kind of coming up on my side. Now, when I know the ball is coming up on my side, we do have an official who's watching this. This trail official is watching this matchup pretty heavily. But I'm going to probably, it looks like it's coming to this side. So I have to be somewhat aware, okay, now it's coming into my area. This is now technically my play. at least from a, what I should be looking at. I shouldn't necessarily be looking here, and I have no other competitive matchup. Now, for those who don't know what I mean by competitive matchup, do you have any players that they're contesting movement or they're doing something to get to a spot? It doesn't appear, at least these two aren't. These two might be, but the lead has a good look at this. Maybe these two are, but the trail's probably looking at the ball at least for a moment at this particular time. So now I'm looking to see ball's in my area now. So now I got to pick up the ball and I got to referee it and adjust accordingly. Now, if you also notice, this is another thing I would look at, not necessarily myself, just if I'm in the position, but you see the lead is now rotating over, or looks like he was rotating over. He started, came back. Again, the ball's not in my area. There's probably no competitive matchup, but I'm aware, I can be ball aware, but not ball watching, to know that he's coming back to me a little bit. Okay. Now I can look at some of these other matchups, because now it looks like almost 2, 4, 6 players are in my area. The trail has the ball, the defender, maybe this screen. And if the lead, for example, they can extend their coverage to other stuff too. So I shouldn't be, as a C in this situation, looking all the way across in front of this official. I got to look where I'm at. So they look like they're kind of moving, setting screens. This is what we do when we are in, especially the C position, because a lot of our movements or a lot of the stuff that we're doing should be off ball. But when the ball comes in our area, then we got to take responsibility. So the ball comes down. This is all me as the center. Nobody else has this matchup at this moment than me. Because he's outside the 3-point line. That is technically all my area. And now the lead comes over. So this is how, when the ball gets knocked out. Now, I don't have the best angle in the world, but I have an idea that the ball got knocked out of his hand. So if he's asking me for help, I'm prepared right now. And if you see, I give a help immediately. I'm like, nope, we're going that way. Now, am I right? I don't know. I can't tell you. The video doesn't back it up, but it's one of the first calls of the game, maybe second of the game. So this is the type of stuff I'm looking for to see. Am I engaged? Am I looking? Can I give help? Even looking to see what I'm doing during the dead ball. I look back at the tables, or anybody at the table. Usually that early, there wouldn't be anybody. Just little things about my movement. And am I paying attention maybe to, maybe where the coaches are and stuff like that. Just little stuff, especially early in the game. And so now I'm the trail. So now this is really, for sure, the ball's on me, but I don't want to be so high on this matchup that I want to be where I'm looking to the back. I want to have an open look where I can see through players. So I can see if this 22 is putting his hand on the player, whatever. This is me all the way. The other officials now have to pick up all these other players and their movements, whether they're screened. So I have to be concentrating on my responsibility and whether I have a count. And obviously we don't have a shot clock. So am I adjusting to the movement of the play? And then now we got a rebound. And I'm not too happy about this, and this is something I'm just noticing. See the rebound that took place? I'm going away from the play. Why? Let me ask everybody in the group. What happens on most shots in high school basketball? What is going to happen on most shots?
They're going to be missed.
They're going to be missed. So where the hell am I going on this play? And this is near the end of the season. So there could be a lot of things going on in my mind. I could be a little tired. I could be maybe not as focused. So this was like one of the last weeks of the season. So here we have a shot, and I, for some reason, am going away from it. And why? I need to be engaged. I need to stay with the shooter. First off, I need to know if I'm staying with the shooter. I guess I'm going to it a little bit. And maybe, okay, maybe I'm a little hard on myself, but see, that's the thing is what you do, you break this stuff down, and I guess maybe it was a steal. Okay, so maybe I'm not as bad as I thought I was. But my point is these are little things that I want to know if I'm engaged. Now, I still don't like my movement because look where I am and look where all the other players are. So what if I have to come in and make a call somewhere on the low block? I'm a ways away from this play. Okay. And I will say this to officials, especially the new officials, you don't get beat. So that shouldn't be my concern. And I'm in pretty good shape. I shouldn't be beat, but here I am seeing my movements. And these are just little things that I look for because then the next time I get out there, I'm like, oh, like how many times did I do that? Did I react to that? Or move away or whatever the case would be. Just little things like that. And then even, I like when they don't cut the video off as well during a timeout or something like that, because then you can see whether I asked the coach, I'm sure what kind of timeout he wants, and then go to the table and report it properly and give the signal. And then do I go to my next spot? So that's not even barely a minute of play. And I've already broken down to me things that are important to me. Now,
Jeff, I don't mean to cut you
go
off
ahead.
because we do have the new officials on here, and we've
Yes.
kind of Tracy and I were working with them. Can you explain about? I know you mentioned it about trying to run down to the other end. A lot of times I know as most of us when we all start out officiating, we see a shot go up, we just take off running the opposite way. Can you talk about the importance of being patient on that so that everyone understands why you needed to stay there as opposed to trying to bail out and go to the opposite end?
Yes, I'm glad you said that because I think I did not explain that very well. So reason it's important, the reason I asked the question is what happens on most shots. The vast majority of high school basketball and even college basketball and sometimes pro basketball, they're going to shoot less than 50%. So that means that more than half of the shots that are taken are going to be missed. If they're shooting 50% or a little over 50%, like 50 or 60%, they're having a wonderful night. And then that your job is so much easier. But most of the time, they're going to shoot 40, 30, and even sometimes 20%. So that means 60, 70% of the time, you're going to have a rebound. So you need to be in a position that if that rebound happens and there's something that happens, especially if you are the center or the trail, you need to be engaged in a better position. And as I look at this, okay, maybe I am the trail here. Okay. And the league goes down. So if we have a situation that takes place right here, me going away from this is not necessarily the best thing because I might be the only one that can help on this particular play. The lead, yes, might have an angle, but there could be something that happens right in front of him and that the lead is looking, or the now new trail is looking through his back. I need to be a little bit more engaged in this play. I actually would like it if I was at between the free throw line extended and the top of the 3-point line, so that if I have a foul, I'm at least engaged in it. The worst thing we can do is during this sequence is turn our back and start running in the other direction. And if I'm running in the other direction, I don't see it, then I'm no help to this crew whatsoever. I've compromised these two officials by having to maybe make a call or maybe to guess on something because this is happening kind of a little bit in my lap. Now, again, this is a steal. So I'm a little bit more absolved, but then he shoots and I don't adjust that much. I'm not happy with my positioning. I really wish I would have come down a little further because if I have to call a rebounding foul, especially early in the game, I'm making what they call a long distance call. I have to make this call from a long way. And then, especially if it's the first call of the game, my believability with these two coaches is like, well, how in the hell, Jeff, do you see that? You are 30-something feet away from that play. You know what, coach? You're right. I am 30-something feet away from that play, and I could probably be in a better position to help out with this play. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
So Jeff, in that situation, would you almost gonna have two C's?
That's fine. We want to be, if you notice the mechanics that we talk about, they want us to be kind of at the 28-foot mark anyway.
Mhm.
So they want us to kind of start there. Now, my positioning, I thought through this sequence was good. It was just after the rebound. I'm probably maybe in a little bit of a hurry to get out of there to get to the play. Now, it's not bad because again, he kind of rebounds the ball, then he gets it stolen from him. That happens. Sometimes we get fooled on what we think is going to happen. But when the play happens again, I really wish I would have adjusted earlier to get at least at the top of the 3-point line, maybe a step under, because that's where all the players are. And that's the other thing that the lessons we're going to have. All 10 of the players a lot of times go underneath the 3-point line. So if we're back in the corner, we are no help to anybody in those situations.
Okay.
So we want to be, now again, you can see a steal. Now it seems like I got back into the play. We had a rotation as well. So I'm kind of in good spot to officiate the next play. But that's just a little something that I noticed that, it's not even big thing. It's just a little thing. But those are things that I look for. Like, am I adjusting to this? I'll let this run a little bit. Like, am I in a good starting home base as the C? I'm the C right here. Have a play. Am I adjusting to the motion? Out of bounds. Am I stopping the clock on the out of bounds play? Am I doing little things? Now, I think I did, but there are some people think I should do it a little longer. So these are things you don't notice until you watch it for yourself. Because if you go to enough camps and they tell you, well, you're not doing this, well, let me see if I'm doing these things. Let me see, are these things that I am doing consistently as an official?
And one thing I really
go
want to stress too, especially for the new officials, I mean for everybody, but especially the new officials, again, the positioning of trail center and lead is just your initial spot where they want you to be at. That's the area they want you to be in. But once you're there, you got to keep working to find angles because, like I said, the ball is going to move. Those players are going to move. So, like Jeff mentioned earlier, you want to see between offense and defense. So, like right now, he's in a trail position where he can see between the offense and defense. But if he stands at the half court line trying to make a call into the basket, it doesn't look believable. And not only that, it looks like you're just being late. If you're trying to eventually progress up the ladder, you want to work every position. I don't care if it's 2-person or 3-person. You really want to work those positions and be good at adjusting. So that means that you know where you're supposed to be, but you're making the necessary adjustments based on the play or based on where the ball location either is or where the ball goes. So that's very important.
Okay.
Donna or Tracy or Pam, you guys got something you want to add to some what we're talking about so far?
Please do, guys. Please do.
So with the video, it kind of maybe simplify it just a little bit for for again new officials, because sometimes you can't remember a lot of things. What he was actually saying is when the shot goes up, everybody steps in on the rebound. C and trails step towards the basket and be ready to turn and run just in case the ball goes back. But then you're already stepped in to referee the rebound. The lead takes a step down, closes down towards the basket. So everybody is, instead of bailing out, like you said, you're going to get beat sometimes, but you want to make sure you're refereeing defense. And of course, that's been a point of emphasis. Like they said, they're going to miss more shots, of course, than they make. So you want to referee that rebound.
And again, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And again, as he was saying, maintaining that triangle, our triangle offense, 3 officials. That was it.
Well said, Pam. For those that are Pam Young.
Go ahead.
So for those that are new, that's Pam Young. She's also a state final official in basketball and volleyball. And she's also a state clinician as well in both sports. So again, you have a lot of veteran knowledge on here. Feel free to ask questions or put it in the chat. There's no dumb question. Trust me, we've all been at that beginning stage where some of this stuff just didn't make sense. But, you know, ask the questions. Hopefully we're answering them, but if you got a question, feel free to ask.
Now, this is something else. You know, as I said, I'm kind of going through different parts, and I do have one other part that I want to discuss. But the one reason I want to discuss some of this is that because it's not plays that we always remember that I'm looking at. I want to emphasize that it's not plays that I'm looking at. I'm looking at every little thing through the game. And then, you know, and then if you get more advanced, you might do some other things with the video, like another thing I will do is I will chart fouls. And what I do with that is I want to know who made the call, what position they made the call at, and maybe the result of the play, if it's a shooting foul, if it's an out of bounds or something like that. I always do, and I also track the number of fouls. When I really get into where I break down a film, I want to know how many fouls I called in the game, because one of my things that I've been working on is not to overly officiate, and not to call more fouls than my partners considerably. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and sometimes it doesn't. Or at least if I'm looking at plays, I want to know like what kind of plays that I'm calling at. Now, let me ask a question. You may not know the answer to this. What position do you think calls the most fouls in a basketball game?
The lead.
Who said what? I'm hearing somebody break up. Did somebody say the lead?
Yeah.
Yeah. The lead actually in almost most games of, it doesn't matter in 3-person, calls the most fouls. So the one reason I do that is because if I'm making calls and I'm the lead position, I want to know where I'm making those calls from, because that to me is really important, whether or not I'm in the right spot or am I over efficient. Am I calling a lot of fouls from the center?
Uh-oh, look like we lost Jeff. Pushed the wrong button, I see. I'm sure you're gonna jump right back on though. But yeah, the lead does typically makes a lot of the calls, because obviously the plays are coming at the lead towards the basket. So typically when more action is coming at you, typically you're gonna probably have more calls to make in those situations. But also you want to be disciplined with those calls as well, because everything that looks like a foul is not always a foul. I learned that from Pam. So you got to learn how to be patient. You got to learn how to, you know, let the play start, develop, and finish. You know, and then just be clear and make sure that even if you do have a foul, you get your whistle foul. Make sure that you look at your partners too, because your partners may have something. So you definitely want to make sure that you are calling your primary and you're allowing the plays to come, start, develop, finish as they come at you. Sometimes we'll pick up the end of a play, especially if we're at the lead, because the play may start from the trail or the C position. So they may see the beginning of the play, but we catch the secondary defender or the player that's the defensive player that's closest to us. We see that, but we don't see what happened from the beginning of the play. So it's really good that's why it's important to have a patient whistle. And, you know, you'll hear that a lot, having a patient whistle. That's very, very, very important. So definitely, you know, you want to practice that too as well. Tracy, anything you want to add? If you're there.
No, sir.
Well, I know you got some good pointers too. You know, as far as being patient at the lead position. While we waiting for Jeff to come back on the call, I'm not sure what happened on his end. Go ahead, Pam. You want to say something?
Oh, did you tell them about the clinic?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, you can mention it real quick while we're waiting for him to come back on.
Well, we just kind of finalized our clinic preparations today. we're hosting the clinic at Oak Lawn. Oak Lawn has a 24-team tournament, June 7th and 8th, of the top girls teams in the state. Very good tournament. And last year he asked Vernell and I and Kevin if we could run a camp in conjunction with his tournament, which turned out to be very, very nice. So nice that they asked us to come back again. So we combined Vernell's top-notch clinic and the Nate Humphrey clinic, which this is our 30th year. And we did it. So we're going to do it again this June 7th and 8th at Oak Lawn. It's only $40. We just set it up today, so we will be sending out the particulars. But what we do at the clinic is train you to be a basketball official. It's the training. And there'll be a lot of games. You have a lot of opportunities to work games, 3 persons. And if you're very, very new, we do try to do a couple of 2-person mechanic games for you, because if you're starting off at the lower level, elementary level, that's generally what you do. But you have at least 2 clinicians, of which most of the people that are clinicians and staff at the clinic have done state championships, at least 2, 3 state championships. And we also have, generally speaking, either Mark, Danny, or Jim Caper stops by, and they always offer some help and assistance and observation at the clinic too. So just keeping that in mind, it will be out on the IHSA within the next couple of days, because we have to get it out there at least 30 days before. And then we will be sending out the brochures for it. But it is really a very good camp for learning how to officiate the game of basketball. We train you from the time you walk in the door to the time you finish and leave the confines of the gym. And all these things that Jeff was showing you today, we show you on the court training. We have ongoing video. Clarence is our tech person, because we do have a classroom session. You have to complete a classroom session in order to get your, clinic credit. And it's just a lot of fun.
Definitely. I would highly recommend. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I would highly recommend those that are new, if you get a chance, to definitely come out. You're going to see some high level basketball. It's at Oak Lawn High School.
Oak Lawn Community High School.
Right,
It's for girls basketball. It's the best in the Chicagoland areas. 24 teams, top level teams in the state that have been in the state championships. And we also have the two women that have been in the last state championships, Donna Mobley and Ashley Logan. They'll be part of our clinic staff, as well as others, state officials.
So real quick, just as you see on the screen, this is part of your IAABO membership. For those that are new, they give us an account with a software called RefQuest. RefQuest is a new application that a lot of the not just high schools, but NCAA sports, multiple sports, are using for assignments and video training. So as part of your IAABO membership, you get to have an IAABO account under RefQuest, where they share different types of videos. So you can go here, you can click on video library. Again, I've been with IAABO since the pandemic, so I have about 26 plus pages worth of videos that they share. They usually send out maybe 2 or 3 plays a week, and it basically kind of like you make the call plays. So you can just go in, you can click on a play. They give you a little description of what it says here. Contact occurs on the torso of the defender. Was it correctly ruled to be incidental? Do you recognize the defender on the play? So basically what you do is you just go and you watch the play, and then you can speed it up. These are your buttons. You can rewind it 10 seconds, 4 seconds, speed it up. or slow it down. So let's watch the play and see what we have here on this particular play. All right, so we're looking for contact on the torso. Did we see any contact there? You know, okay. So I don't know. What do you guys see on this particular play? Anybody see anything?
There was contact, but like I don't know, she didn't like fully extend the arm, so like
What now?
there was definitely like contact when she gave like the little small arm bar, but she didn't like fully extend the arm. So like
Okay. So again,
A
the question
small flop.
is this incidental contact? So based on your perception, do you think it's incidental contact? So this is one of the good things I like about RefQuest, because when they send out these different plays, this is the description down here that I just read. Now you get to click make a call. So now you get to say, okay, yes, this is incidental contact. No, this is a blocking foul. No, this is a player control foul. You can put whatever answer you want, and then you can put a little comment down there just that you can, you can say what it is, or if you want to apply the rule to the play, which is a good thing to do just for your own reference purposes. So in my case, I may say this is incidental contact. Just saying hypothetically, it could be offensive foul, whatever. But then I can put down here the offensive player extended her arm. I'm sorry. Used her arm. But didn't displace, can't even spell now, the defender. Okay. You can put whatever you want. It's not, it's not based on really your response, but it's more so about, okay, they want you to justify whatever your selection is, and then you can submit your answer. Okay. So now I submitted my answer. I believe they sent this video today, so I don't think they have a summary on it yet, or yes, they do. So now I can go click the play summary. Okay. So now I can scroll down and I can see, based on the play summary of everybody that responded to the same video, red says, yes, this is incidental contact. Green says, no, this is a blocking foul. And blue says, no, this is a player control foul, which was the correct response. So now this is what's letting me know, oh, so it was actually a player control foul. Why? Because she extended her arm and she displaced the defender. So now when I go to the comments, you have to issue a comment first in order for the system to generate everybody else's comments. So now I can go through and see everybody that replied. I can see their comments. Okay. And again, this is just helping you get better at officiating, because now you're seeing what other officials are seeing. Some people get it right, some people get it wrong. Some people may say, this, that, or the other. But the point of it is you can scroll through here, and this is for every play that they post. They usually give a play summary a couple of days after they post the play. So you can go back and you can rewind it as much as you want, to watch it again over and over again. So I say I want to slow it down. Say, okay, I want to slow this play down a little bit, because maybe it was, I thought she didn't extend it, but then I go back, I go, oh, wait a minute, she actually did extend her arm, and she displaced the defender. So again,
right, that's the key. Did the contact disrupt the rhythm, speed, quickness, or balance of the person contacted?
Correct. So we call that RSBQ, rhythm, speed, balance, quickness. Okay. Every player has a right to rhythm, speed, balance, quickness. Doesn't matter if it's offense or defense. They have a right to that. So the opposing player cannot displace, reroute, impede, the person's rhythm, speed, balance, or quickness. So in that particular case, the defender was legal the whole entire time. Okay. The defender has a right to slide her feet left, right. She can go diagonally. She can even go backwards. She just can't go into the offensive player. Okay. So based on the play, she did just what she was supposed to do legally. She didn't go into the offensive player. The offensive player initiated the contact by extending her arm into the torso. Now, in real game speed, yeah, you might say, well, that's incidental contact. But then sometime when you go back and you look at these plays in real time, you say, oh, wait a minute, actually there was some contact there. Okay. So again, they're sharing plays like this with all of the officials that are IAABO members across the world. Well, the goal is to make it more consistent so everybody's consistently calling the same calls. Now, will that always happen? Of course not. But it gives you an idea of what you can do and how you can use this tool to help increase your knowledge. Now, Jeff was talking about earlier about how, having access to training videos and things like that, where you can study everything, study plays and break plays down. Now you have access to that with your IAABO membership. All you have to do is log into your RefQuest account with your email, set up a password, and you're good to go. They're going to send you email notifications pretty much 2 to 3 times a week with different types of videos where you can go in and you can study, you can break film down. If something that you don't understand, you can reach out to somebody, say, hey, I was looking at the play in RefQuest, talking about the incidental contact. Can you help explain that to me? Because I thought that was incidental contact. Why was that a foul? Or vice versa. I thought it was a foul. Why did they say it was incidental contact? Or whatever the case may be, you have an option to go in and to review footage and to review plays. The other beauty I like about it, I can do a filter. So let's say if I'm looking for specific types of plays, say if I'm looking for airborne shooter plays, I can go in, I can click that. And now here's some plays that's dealing with airborne shooter. Okay. So you can filter it based on different types of categories. So if I want to go back and say, well, better yet, you know what, I want to see let's say I'm looking for block charge plays. Okay. So I'm gonna click block charge. Okay, now I got all the videos related to block charge. So now I can watch a play that's block charge and say, okay, let's see a block charge play. So let's break this play down. Okay, the official up here called the offensive foul, the center official. Was the defender there? Or was that a play on?
And this is something I'm looking at. I'm not even necessarily looking at just whether that was a block charge. Where's the positioning of the officials on this particular play? Is
Right.
any official really in a good spot to see this play?
So the lead never even made it down there yet to even see that.
Now, I'm glad you said that because I was waiting for somebody to say that. Remember what we said.
He wasn't in no position to even call that.
Remember
No, Clarence, you said whenever you get beat, step like to the sideline, like free throw line, extended so you can referee the play if you already done got beat.
if you can get there, yes. If you can't get, let's be honest. No, this is no disrespect to the officials on the game, but hell, if it was even some of us on the game, we probably wouldn't have made it to the baseline fast enough than some of the players. And so that's what. So it goes back to what the play Jeff was talking about earlier about how he was saying he started to bail out too soon, where the players, because we thought it was going to be a missed rebound and thought they were going to go the other way. So sometimes your natural reaction is to try to hurry up and get to your next position, which in this case was down court. Well, guess what? This particular play, there was a deflection. And now the ball was stolen. Now they take off running. We'll never beat these kids down the court. Don't even try it. You'll pull a hamstring or hurt yourself. Then you'll be using your national insurance for real then.
Is this a college game or a high school game?
High school game.
It looks like a high college from this is a high school game?
He took off on his
high school game.
Okay.
So, but again, these are plays that we're going to see on a consistent basis, boys and girls. You're going to see stuff like this. They may not be dunking on the girls' side like that, but you're still going to see players, because coaches really stress the fact of trying to take those block charges. They want them to, try to take the charge. They want their players to hustle down court and to try to take that charge. So again, Jeff brought up a great point. Let's break it down. So Jeff, you want to go ahead and I'll just kind of lead.
Yeah. So this is a play he's got no shot at. And what I mean by is he has no shot to get ahead of the play, because this is literally a deflection. He's where he's supposed to be on the throw in, and now the ball's deflected, and now they are in a full out sprint to the other end. There is absolutely no way he is going to get to the baseline. But what he does need to do is get himself in a better position and maybe come to a stop to possibly rule on this play. Now, if we stop right here, if he had probably stopped maybe a couple steps before that, maybe he has a better look. But see, even his angle might be obstructed by this player that is sitting right in front of him. He may doesn't have the greatest look. And so he's got to make a play. Other official is also in a bad spot. He can't really help too much on this play. So we have to make a decision based off of where our positioning is. Now, would we want to be closer to this? Of course. But there are just plays, and I don't care how old you are, that you are never going to get to. And this is probably one of them because they had a full out sprint. They had a head start. He doesn't. So he's got to get in the best possible spot. So if he has a block or a charge, he could make that from that positioning if he has a great angle. And it appears the person who calls it, well, not appears, the person who calls it is the center official who's probably further away and maybe doesn't even have a good look. But this is one of these plays that probably needs a whistle. This is probably not one of these plays that we can say, well, nothing happened. So we have to make the best decision that we can in this situation, especially the way the players fell to the floor. We probably have to have a whistle here. But in a perfect world, I would probably want that lead official, and maybe it's just because of his physical ability or whatever, maybe around the free throw line extended if he could get there. But I'm gonna say this: that's really hard for even the most athletic of us because of the nature of how these players, how athletic they are. But we need something on this play. This is not a play, in my opinion, we can just say, oh, no, nothing happened. We got to have something. Now, is it the right call? I don't know. He calls a charge, right?
Yeah, I got a block.
I got a charge.
I got a block.
Okay, tell me why you got a charge, Dion.
So his both feet was set shoulder width apart. Like he had kind of got there like real fast, but I feel like that he kind of planted his feet, shoulder width part already.
Okay, so you got him in legal guarding position.
Yeah.
So when do you have him in legal guarding position? And I'm asking for a reason. And the reason I'm also asking you this, because these are questions coaches are going to ask you.
Or your assigner is going to ask you.
Or the assigner is going to ask you. Maybe this is early in the game, but what if this is the last 2 minutes of the game and this kid or one of these kids fouls out? You got to be able to explain this and have an answer that's reasonable for the play. And I'm not saying you're telling me anything wrong, Dion. I want to emphasize how important these plays can be sometimes when you see them on film. So you have a charge based off of what? You said his feet are set and what else?
Feet was set. He wasn't leaning up, nothing like that. Like he was, maintaining our verticality. Like to me, it looked like.
Okay, Joe, tell me why you got a block.
I don't have him establishing 2 feet and getting legal guard position before the offender, before the offensive player takes off to make his shot. It's close. It's bang bang. He's hustling. He's getting there. But I don't have him having legal guarding position before he does.
So are you saying he doesn't have legal guarding position before he goes to the air?
Before the A1 starts his shooting motion.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is why I asked this question.
Yep.
Does shooting motion matter?
By rule.
By rule.
Yes, it does.
So
the defender has to establish
he
has to establish the 2 feet, right? Before the offensive player starts his shot. By rule.
Okay, let me clarify something.
Yep.
To have legal guarding position, you have to have 2 feet on the floor
That's correct.
and facing the opponent.
That's correct.
That's
Yes.
it.
That's
As
it.
your
Correct.
as your initial guarding position, legal guarding position. Initial. I want to make that
Yes,
clear.
that's
Initial.
correct. That's correct. Yes, I agree with that.
The only thing that is different is that after that, I can move to maintain, like Clarence
Absolutely.
said. I can move
100% agree.
backwards, I can move sideways, I can move obliquely, which basically backwards and diagonally.
I agree.
The
Totally
only other caveat to that is if a player goes airborne. So if a player goes airborne, I have to have been in legal guarding position before he goes airborne. Nothing in the rule says before his shooting motion.
Okay.
So he has to be there and play this maybe a little bit. He has to be there before he gets in the air.
Here, okay, and that's maybe what I should have been more specific. But
Okay.
this play, as you know, Jeff, is going to happen so fast.
Oh,
that
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying I'm emphasizing that this part of it,
Yeah.
because the more you do higher level basketball and these plays are sent to you, these are the kind of questions you might get from a supervisor.
Right.
The supervisor might ask you, why did you have a block on this play? Like, because the coach might have sent this video in because so-and-so, the gold player, that's his 5th foul. He was the best player. Now, obviously, this is really early in the game, so this is not the issue. But in let's say there's the 4th quarter with a minute to go and that player fouls out. He might want to know why we called the foul on the player that fouled out. So
I've got to make sure I state that I had the shooter airborne.
Right.
Prior to airborne. That would be my clarification of the definition.
And then to be honest with you, it's really close.
It's
so
close.
I'm not even saying you're totally wrong on this.
No.
I think this is a charge, but it's close when he gets off the air and when he shifts.
Yeah.
I got
you have to go in confident, but because you by definition you could go in and say the exact opposite, that it was a charge, and no one can really dispute it because of the speed of the call. And
well, see, what can save you is how you answer these questions.
Yes,
is because a good assigner, first of all, is going to be like, that's a judgment call, coach. That's what it was called, this, that, the other. But the thing is the reality is you might get asked why you made a decision, and how you answer that question can affect maybe whether they have confidence in you to put you on certain games. And here's the other part of this: the coach is going to ask you, why did he didn't foul him? He wasn't there. So what I want to emphasize is we always should use rule book language to the best of our ability. Like, I don't even care if you're wrong. Use rulebook language. Say they was in legal guarding position or he wasn't in legal guarding position before he left the air. If you say that, you can save yourself a lot of headache from them type of plays, as opposed to saying, well, he didn't start before the motion. Because you say that before the motion, if I'm a supervisor, I'll be like, what do you mean he started before the motion?
I got you.
And
Jeff,
go on.
Are you finished, Joe? I want to ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done.
Go. This is an open.
I mean, like I said, that's some gang play. Now, my issue with that is, okay, he got his 2 feet down, but his body's still moving as the guy's going up.
Okay, bro.
And then you got contact, and he's up by then. He's gotten up in the air when that guy's still moving. So I mean, I think that play, that's almost like a 50-50 play. Like you could be right either way. I mean, but like you said, how you word it to the coach will help you out. Because I mean, he's like, once his feet get there, the rest of his body starts getting there. You know how your momentum is still moving, and then it's like he's still like getting his body upright. The defender is.
But I'm glad you brought that point up, because here's what you got to ask yourself: based on what the rule is now. And you look at the natural momentum of how the defensive player is trying to beat the offensive player to the spot. Just scientifically, we know if his feet plant first, his torso is going to shift and even up with his body. would you
Right.
call a block because the kid's upper torso is moving to get to stand straight up?
Like a war at the defense.
Okay. Or based on the rule, are we looking at the feet and the torso facing the defender?
Yeah.
Because they think
Me
about it now.
personally,
Think
I'm
about
going
it.
block.
Technically speaking, if you want to say that that's a block because his feet was there, but his torso, like if I'm running this way and my feet get there first and then my torso is shifting over, is that really a block? Or is that me just trying to establish myself by standing straight up?
I mean, I've seen a play like that from him shifting from coming from one side of the lane to the other. Okay, you get your feet there and your body's leaning already, and the contact happens. Your feet got there, but the rest of your body ain't there yet.
Now,
Right,
I
but-
would
but-
I would
I'm-
agree.
Go
I would
ahead.
agree with you here. If the reality is that we're never going to have a player, if that's the criteria, ever get in a position to take a charge.
Correct.
Under
That's
these
my
circumstances.
point.
And because if we do that, we're always going to justify well their body's moving. Now, let me say this: if he goes and shifts over enough outside of his vertical plane to pick him off, I agree. That's a block. But we don't have the best angle from where we're standing, from where we see in this video, to know if that's the case. Probably the only person that can really know that is the center in this case, because he can probably see whether he goes over and, let's say, leans over to his left to pick him off instead of taking most of that contact in the torso.
Or-
But I would say this: I'm what I would call myself a charge guy. I'm going to give the defender every benefit of the doubt if I can. And then again, that doesn't mean I'm going to be right all the time. But if it's 50-50, I'm going the other way.
Right.
Now,
For me.
with the
Okay.
comments below that is probably about 50-50, isn't it, Clarence?
Let's see. Let me make a call. I'm just gonna say play control just to see what the comments are. Close this out. And the play.
I have one more question after Eddie gets done on this play.
So the correct response was player control. Red.
Okay.
339 people said.
Look at the comments. Look up at the comments on that. Just
Oh.
to see what they say. Click on comments.
You can get a little commentary too.
Yeah, commentary. And that's the great thing about this too, is that we get an answer for what they feel that it is. But again, you get all kind of comments on these plays, and you're always going to get all kind of comments on these plays. When RefQuest was brought into plays, we had college staffs, and they would show plays, and we would always have people who disagreed with plays.
What they mean time to read.
So it's going to happen. So don't feel bad if it happens, but at least we get kind of an idea from the governing body what they think of this particular play. Now I think it's a charge. That's just me. But also we get the benefit of the slowing it down and looking at it and see where his foot left the floor and all that other stuff. We get the benefit of that. They don't get the benefit of that.
Can I ask you another question?
Oh, go right ahead.
For this answer. In this play that's that close, it's a 50-50 play. Would you in that case probably go with the team that needed it the most? Team behind.
You have to be really good.
I mean, it's from a game. I mean, because it's a game deciding play. Team ahead. If you call it a charge, if offense is ahead, you call it a charge. You got a game. If you call it a block, the game's probably over.
I would say this. You really have to have a really worldview of a game to do that. And I'm not saying it's impossible, because I will admit there are times, the more I've done this, if there's certain plays that I know that I'm gonna get shit about for the wrong reason, I might just say, hey, it's a 50-50 play. I can go with this one because that's going to keep us out of less trouble.
Yeah.
But you really have to be aware of that. And that is really hard to do. For example, if I know that kid's is his fifth foul and I don't want to put a bullshit foul on it, for his fifth foul. Now, I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying that's how sometimes you can think. Maybe you do that. But the problem is we used to be able to do that a lot easier, and Pam can attest to this, when we didn't have as much video. Now we got video, and they're breaking this damn thing down. Look how many iterations we were able to see it, and this, that, the other. And now they can say,
look how long it took to determine.
right.
Yeah.
So you don't have that kind of time in a game.
And the reason I asked that, Jeff, was because I did a college camp, and when they were asking some of the calls that we were making, they were saying, okay, team A had 5 fouls, team 2 had 2. It was this point in time in the game. Why'd you make that call? You could have given it to the team that needed the most. I mean, that discussion was coming into play.
And I would say this, yes, if you really have a world view of that game and you're good at it,
yeah,
you can do some of those things. But
Yeah.
I would be careful doing that unless you really understood the 60-second. Now, I will say this. There's probably more happens when I got 2 players who foul a player, and I know the one player is the bigger player, the better player, and the other player isn't.
Yeah.
And I can give a little cheap foul to the other one, even though both of them probably fouled him, and maybe the other one fouled him first. If I can get away with it, yes, I can do that. But you got to be careful with that. I had an official a long time ago tried to tell me that he knew and y'all know who he is. I won't say the individual's name, but I called a foul with one kid. It was a one-on-one matchup. There was another kid 10 feet away. The kid that fouled him, clearly fouled him, was right in front of me, and I saw it. It was just them 2. He wanted me to give it to the other kid that was 10 feet away. I said, I'm not doing it. That's ridiculous. Because first of all, if you see the film, they're not going to go back and say, this official who knows better knows I'm giving it to the wrong kid or whatever, or giving it to the other kid. They're going to say your integrity or something else is in front. So there's very few situations where those situations that we need to do that. But I would say this, we have to be aware of the game itself and everything that goes on. The more you are aware of who your impact players are, what they're doing, what kind of fouls that they're getting throughout the game. If you know that, now it's easier in high school because a lot of times we only got 1 or 2 really good players in games, and sometimes not even that. But we might have 1 or 2 real impact players and 1 on each team. Otherwise than that, a lot of times we don't have those type of players. In a college game, they got more of those players. They got 3 or 4 on a team, and if the post player goes out, then now that changes the whole game because they ain't got nobody coming off the bench. You might be able to do that there. It's harder to do that at the high school level because that one player sometimes is just not not very good. Show the video, Clarence.
So this was from 21-22 season NCAA. And this is a legal guarding position of video. Now, of course, it's just college players, but the concept is still the same. So I'm just going to play it just so you guys can hear the explanation of the legal guarding position.
Officials have done a better job this season of understanding the requirements to establish legal guarding position and maintain that legal guarding position. Likewise, officials have had a better call accuracy rate on these plays. As a reminder, let's look at some of the rules regarding establishing and maintaining legal guarding position.
Now, the key part is establishing and maintaining. A lot of times we go by the establishing part, but we forget the maintaining part. So keep that in mind as you watch this short video.
Rule 4-17, guarding. To establish an initial legal guarding position on the player with the ball, the guard shall have both feet touching the playing court. The guard's torso shall face the opponent from any direction. No time and distance shall be required. When the opponent with the ball is airborne, the guard shall have established legal guarding position before the opponent left the playing court. In layman's terms, the defense must establish legal guarding position by placing 2 feet on the floor facing his opponent. Subsequently, the defense may move laterally or obliquely to maintain that legal guarding position. The defense cannot move forward into the dribbler. Let's look at some plays. The next several plays are examples of the defense establishing and maintaining legal guarding position. Number 3 blue dribbles from the top of the key down the lane line. Number 15 white legally defends the play. Number 15 white establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 15 white is then entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him, or obliquely. Number 15 white meets all of the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position and is rewarded as the trail official correctly calls a player control foul on number 3 blue.
Now, remember for years, we would always say, oh, that's a blocking foul. You guys remember that? We would always say that, oh, the defender, he's moving. That's a blocking foul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for years, and people used to, and I used to always say to myself, like, wait a minute. So if that's always a blocking foul, all we're saying, if that's a blocking foul, then the only thing the defender can do is just stand still and take the contact. But that's not what the rule says. So they made a point of emphasis to say, hey, we got to stop penalizing the defender for making a legal defensive move by rule, which is what White just did. He can move laterally, left or right, diagonally, however you want to call it, obliquely, okay? He can move backwards or what have you. You just can't go into the offensive person. So now that's why this is such a huge point of emphasis, because we technically kept giving fouls to defenders for making legal guarding plays.
This just made so much sense.
Number 3 white dribbles from the top of the key down the lane line. Number 5 blue legally defends the play. Number 5 blue establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 5 blue then is entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him, or obliquely. Number 5 blue meets all the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position and is rewarded as the trail and center officials correctly call a player control foul on number 3 white.
Got a question for you. Does the defender have to fall to the floor for it to be an offensive foul?
Great question, because I sure want to know.
But what do you think? Tell us what you think.
No, I don't think they have to fall to the ground.
Okay, so let's go back for a second. That play that they just showed. This player here, number 5. Let's say same play happens, but he doesn't fall to the floor. Do you still call offensive foul?
You
in real time. In real time.
Like you saying what I personally call?
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably not. Probably not.
Why? Because he didn't fall to the floor?
Because he didn't fall to the floor. And so in like real timing, I wouldn't have called it, only because of my knowledge to like charges 9 times out of 10 when somebody falling. But looking back at this and like, you know, knowing the actual rules, then yeah, that's a charge still.
So regardless if the player falls to the floor or not, remember, we're judging the contact. Okay.
Yeah.
So the rule, the defender did with those same. Just imagine those arrows when you're officiating the game. Did the defender do any of those arrows? If they did those arrows, they're legal. As long as they don't reach in, they don't use their hip to bump the offensive player, anything like that, they're perfectly legal. And they do not have to fall to the floor if that contact happens.
So he was meeting all the criteria still, even if he didn't fall.
Correct. Because again, the rule doesn't say he has to fall to the floor.
Just got to meet the criteria.
Meet the criteria. Now,
gotcha.
Now, let's be honest. If you make that call, White's coach is going to be
yeah, definitely.
If you got to answer to your assigner, hey, assigner, by rule, he was in legal guarding position. You see what I'm saying? So let's not always get caught up. And I know you knew, Dion, and officiating, you know, fairly new. Don't get caught up in, did the play look ugly or did it look funny? because something that looks ugly or funny may not be legal, and then some things that do look ugly or funny are legal.
And let me even add to this about these plays. Now we're talking about legal guarding position, and the legal guarding position is mostly involves when it's body to body contact. Okay, there's a caveat that we can still call player control fouls with a defender that's not in legal guarding position. I am not allowed as the ball handler to push off or to throw myself into somebody that, even if they're not in a legal guarding position, purposely to get space or to gain some kind of advantage. So that's another caveat to this, because a lot of times what you see is you'll see players, they'll come to somebody and they're throwing themselves or their arm or their shoulder into a defender, and the defender wasn't in legal guarding position. They were coming towards them, but who initiates the contact? The offensive player goes and throws themselves into them. And especially this happens when they go plays near the basket, because there'll be sometimes the defender won't be might even be in a position where they're behind them or a little off to the side of them. They're not in front of them. They may have never was able to establish legal guarding position, but the offensive player goes and meets them to create some kind of contact so that they can get an easier shot or an easier path to where they're going. So legal guarding position is not the end all be all of actions. No player could use their arms, their legs, their shoulders in a way to create space with their opponent. That is against the rules, period. So don't also get caught up into, well, he wasn't in legal guarding position, because depending on what I do, I might be shoving you off, and that defender was never going to contact you, or I was never going to run into them other than me throwing my arm off on them to get space. So those are other things you need to kind of think about as well. And these are not easy. And now we got the flopping part that's going to come into play, because now we're going to have players that are going to throw themselves to the ground when maybe they shouldn't have been throwing themselves to the ground. Like they weren't contacted in that way. So now you got to officiate this play a little more. Like, there are plays like this where the defender will throw themselves to the ground on this play. Now, I don't think that's this play that we're showing right now, but there are plays where they're barely in contact. And you hear them and you see the theatrics. And
Well,
now
and one, ref, and one.
Right. Or you got to make a decision on whether or not that's what happened on the play. And you got to officiate that part of it too now. Or not just officiate it now. I guess we always had to officiate it, but now we have the element of the flop. And whether you call a flop or not, you still might have plays that where you got to decide whether there was, and you might have a coach that will say something to you about them plays. So just keep those things in mind.
So let me.
Go ahead. What's that?
I was going to go back and play it so that everybody can hear the rest of the video.
Okay.
Number 4 black dribbles in transition toward the top of the key. Number 5 gray legally defends the play. Number 5 gray establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 5 gray is entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him or obliquely. Number 5 gray meets all of the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position and is rewarded as the trail and lead officials correctly call a player control foul on number 4 black. Number 2 white dribbles in transition toward the top of the key. Number 11 blue legally defends the play. Number 11 blue establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 11 blue then is entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him or obliquely. Number 11 blue meets all of the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position and is rewarded as the lead official correctly calls a player control foul on number 2 white. Number 14 blue dribbles from half court toward the top of the key. Number 0 white legally defends the play. Number 0 white establishes legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent. Number 0 white is then entitled to move laterally, shown by the blue line, or in any direction behind him or obliquely. Number 0 white meets all the criteria for maintaining legal guarding position. The trail official incorrectly calls a blocking foul on number 0 white. This is a player control foul.
Now it goes back to what I was just saying, how long ago we would always call that a blocking foul because we were like, oh, the defender's moving his feet. Well, he has a right to move his feet. How else is he going to defend if he don't move his feet? So you have to think about that. But like I said, based on the rule, he was doing everything within.
The trail official incorrectly calls a blocking foul on number 0 white. This is a player control foul. The next few plays deal with the defender not establishing legal guarding position. Number 20 white catches a pass at the top of the key and drives the lane line. Number 23 black establishes legal guarding position by placing 2 feet on the floor facing his opponent. Subsequently, number 23 black moves forward and under his opponent after number 20 white had left the floor.
And that's
the lead
the play,
official correctly calls a blocking foul.
And that's the play that I think, Joe, you're kind of talking about, like, you know, maybe he shifts his feet or whatever, or shifts his body. If that was the case in that other play, I would agree. That's a blocking foul. But in this particular situation, I think that this one definitely is a blocking foul, but I'm not sure if that was what the case was in that play. But go ahead.
Moves forward and under his opponent after number 20 white had left the floor. The lead official correctly calls a blocking foul on number 23 black and counts the basket. Well done. Number 35 white goes airborne to catch a pass. Number 1 red defends the play. Number 1 red does not establish legal guarding position, that is, both feet on the floor facing his opponent, prior to number 35 white going airborne. The lead official incorrectly calls a player control foul on number 35 white. This is a blocking foul on number 1 red for not giving number 35 white a place to land.
Now let me go back, and this was a really good play as far as is a transition play, but also because the lead and the center both have a call, have a whistle on this play. But watch what the center does when he gets his whistle. When he blows his whistle, he holds his position because he's looking for his partner so that they don't have a blarge. Okay, you don't want to have a blarge, meaning that one person's calling a block, one person's calling a charge. Now you got to go to the table and say, oh, we got to give a foul to both players because one official had a foul on white, one official had a foul on red, and now both players got to have a foul against them. When by mechanics, our job is to be patient, keep your hand up, your fist up, look for your partners before you give a preliminary signal. Okay, so that's what the C did in that case. He held his position, had his fist up. He realized his partner had a whistle on the play. The lead had an offensive foul or player control foul. And so he did not give a preliminary, which was great. The center did not give a preliminary. He just held his whistle. Okay.
This is a play you need to talk about in your pregame. Go ahead.
So don't the defender got to give the offensive player like at least 2 steps when they get the ball?
No, he has to be there before he goes airborne. So if you watch it, he goes airborne and he's not in legal guarding position when he's airborne. Right. It's not about steps. It's like he doesn't give him. He's left the air. He's in the air right now, and he wasn't there before he left the air. Before he went in the air. That's the reason why this is a blocking foul, or should have been a blocking foul. Now, the other caveat I want to say, this is a transition play, and the center does a really good job because most of the time this would be the lead's call. But this is even a play I think the lead should be a little patient on. Mm-hmm. Because if he comes out so quickly and he doesn't recognize that his partner has a whistle, he could possibly give the wrong signal or give a signal, and the center is giving a signal. So the center does a good job. Now, I'll say this in 2-person or 3-person, the trail and the centers have to be patient on their whistles and their signals almost every time. Because if this going away from you is going to the basket, the lead oftentimes is going to get the first crack. But on this particular play, if this was me, I would want to be like, boom, let me make sure no one else is with me, and no one else is with me, no one else is with me. Okay, player control foul. Now, I wouldn't, it's wrong to call player control, but my point is that I want to make sure I'm not, coming out so quick that my partner has started to make the signal. Because if the center doesn't hold off on this, that's the worst thing could happen. Now we got to put 2 fouls on the play. And I've seen a game in college where the 2 players that they called a blodge on foul out. And there were 2 big guys. And it was a horrible, neither coach was happy.
Now, remember too, on this particular play, the commentator, he's saying that this play was called wrong. The league called an offensive foul when it was actually a defensive foul, because like Jeff said, the defender got there late. Okay, so that White obviously has his head turned away from the defender, but he's going for the ball, and the defense didn't allow him a place to land. That's what made it a blocking foul on this particular play.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was asking about the
Yeah.
placement. Like, he gotta have like a small window to land at.
Oh, you said, no,
Well,
no,
just has to have a place to land. It's not even
What-
about steps. That's why I wanted to even get you away from saying how many
Okay.
steps.
Okay.
Because even
So-
if he landed, then ran into him, different play.
yeah, it's
Right.
Different play. So if he lands and there's no contact, and then he takes a step or he is landed and then runs into a defender, though the defender might have established legal guard position by the time he landed.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that he didn't
Right.
establish that, let's go give it that blocking foul.
Absolutely.
All right,
But that's
gotcha.
but this is still a difficult play. These are difficult plays. This is not an easy play, because sometimes we got to pick up the defender probably a little early before, and maybe even know what the offensive player is doing so that we get this play right. That's a tough play.
So
Go
go
ahead.
I was going to say one thing that we always talk about, and it's kind of advanced officiating, but as a beginner, you need to be aware of this. This is a great play where we talk about picking up the secondary defenders too, because right now the primary defender is the person trying to jump to block the ball, trying to get the ball, deflect the ball. Well, obviously he can't get to the ball. Now your eyes got to say, okay, who's the next defender that can hurt me? Okay,
Number one.
you see who the next defender is going to be one of these 2. You don't know which one it is because he hadn't made a move just yet. Okay. So because the big man is running down the middle of the lane and they're covering the wings. Okay. Because he's worried about him over here, and this person's worried about him over there. Okay. So now your eyes as the lead and as the center, you got to say, okay, the center, this is his primary responsibility. This is the lead's primary responsibility. These 2 right here, as well as White. Okay, so now you got to say, okay, where's the ball? The ball's going to dictate where my eyes are going to go, or which defender I'm going to pick my eyes up on. So you have to train yourself to look at the defender, not the ball in this particular play. Okay, because the player's going to react. When they get ready to catch the ball, you're going to see 2 hands go up when a person getting ready to catch the ball. You want to get your eyes on the defender. Okay, this is what we call sequencing plays. So once you get your eyes on the defender, you see who the first person is coming closest to the big fella is number 1. So you got to ask yourself, okay, was he there before the defender went airborne, or was he there after the defender went airborne? Okay, and that thought process has to happen in split seconds. Okay, and once you get in the habit of training your mind to pick up those secondary defenders, or knowing who the primary defender is, and then taking your eyes to the secondary defender, that's what's going to help you get better at getting more accuracy on these type of plays, especially on block charge plays. Okay.
And then another thing to also consider too, you also have to try to get a clean look. It's possible that 32
was in the
is
way.
in his way.
Mhm.
Okay, so it could be one of those situations. That's another reason why I think he could wait, because what if he doesn't see the whole play because he's got stacked? It's okay for him not to be on a quick hurry to make that call. So the center probably is in a really better position to make this call in some ways, because he might got completely screened on this. So
Now,
that's why I said it's okay for even the lead in this case to have what we would call a cadence whistle. I mean, I'm seeing it. No one else. Okay, I got to get something.
Now, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, I think the league called this offensive foul, player control foul, because 32 was slightly in his way for a split second. So he slightly got straight line. By the time he could see the defender, guess what he sees? He sees this. He sees the elbow going to the face of the defender. Okay, the offensive player come down with the ball, and he see an elbow go into his face or towards his neck area, which possibly made him think, oh, that's an offensive foul. But remember what I just said earlier. If you picked up the defender, his feet before he even went airborne and caught the ball, you would have known that the defender was in the landing space. So you wouldn't even look at that particular, you wouldn't have looked at the upper part of the play. You looked at the bottom part, which is what the C did, which is what the C did. So the C actually, like Jeff said, the C had the best look on the play the whole time. Now, think about this, because we're rewinding and fast forward this in slow motion. So, and I like to do that because it helps you train your brain. So when you see it in real time, you know how to process plays a little bit better. But this is what you got to think about. What if this coach sends this clip in to the assigner, and the assigner asks this referee who's the lead, hey, what did you see on that play for you to call an offensive foul? 9 times out of 10, he's going to say, you saw the elbow go to the head, didn't you? He's going to say, yep, I did. But the center, I guarantee you, if you ask the center, what did he have? He was going to probably say a block. Why? Because he had an open look. He could see the whole play all the way down the court. He could see that defender step over from over here, right in the lane, right in front of the offensive player before he can even land to have a block. That's why he held his arm up.
And let me give you another higher level of thinking when those questions are asked of you. If a signer is asking you this independently, give your honest answer.
Mm-hmm.
Do not default to, well, my partner had a charge, I got a charge too. Now, what I mean that is I'm talking to the assigner. If the coach asks you, what do you got on that play? I got the same thing my partner got.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever sell out your partner because first of all, you don't know if you really got it right anyway. So at that particular moment, you want to be as a crew. Because I had a play, I won't say similar to this, but that happened this year, and I had a whistle. I was the lead on this play, and I actually waited because I didn't have the best angle. But I held, and my partner, who's the center, in transition, comes out hard and calls a block. Well, I had a charge in my mind, okay, and wasn't a big deal. It was the only block charge we had in that game. But the coach asked me, "Well, what'd you have on that play?" Coach had the same thing he had, and the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, "No, I didn't." But then I thought about it, and see, and there was other things about this is why the rules thing is in college they have a little bit different about an airborne player and this and the other. And I only say that because I was going to call it incorrect. And I went to my partner and I talked to him. I said, "What did you have? Why did you have this?" And he told me what he had. And I was like, you know what? I would have been wrong if I would have called it. So that's sometimes you got to look inside yourself to know how to process those plays. Because even in the moment, you might think you're right and you might get some more information and figure out you're wrong.
Yeah. Now, this next play is actually a good one because it talks about how the defender slightly turns to absorb the contact. And remember, by rule, a defender can turn, once they've established themselves, they can turn to absorb the contact. So you see how he slightly turned a little bit? Okay, that's still a legal play.
On his part.
On his part, right. So the defender here, he's established himself, and then he slightly turned to absorb that contact. You can, a player can do that legally. Now, this particular play, they were saying that was illegal. I guess he moved his foot when he turned, but long as it's just his upper torso, he can move long as he doesn't go into the offensive player. He still can turn to absorb that contact. So
or lean back a little bit. Like, don't penalize him because if a bigger player about to run you over, you're not gonna sit. It's gonna be very hard for you to stand still and just get run over. You're gonna be like, "Oh crap, get run over." So if they lean back a little bit, that doesn't absolve their legality.
Right. And a lot of times we say, "Oh, he's leaning. That's a block." By rule, remember, the player can go backwards as long as it's not into the defender. Now, there's a difference between me just dropping to the floor like I'm sitting in a chair, talk about I'm trying to take the charge, you know, and I fall to the floor. There's a difference. Okay. But if I'm there and I'm legally there and I'm taking a position and I'm kind of doing this to absorb some of that contact, that's perfectly legal by rule. Okay. And we have to remember that. Any questions on these particular plays or just block charge and legal guarding position and anything along that line?
And he's in a great spot to see that too. Look, he's stationary. He got into a good spot. He can see that play with clarity. Anytime that we can get stationary, especially if you're anticipating some contact on a particular play, because you're stationary now, it's easier to see other than you running and your eyes are moving, and which can, you know, cause a little blur of what you're trying to see. So he's doing a really good job
now
in that spot.
Dion, I think I mentioned this to you before. You know, a lot of times, you know, especially new officials, they like to stand right here on the lane line. Okay, right here out of bounds at the lead. Just imagine if this official was standing right here. What is
I wasn't gonna be able to see that because I was too close in.
Too close, and look, you almost put yourself in a straight line position. Okay, so that's why we say that's why when in college they got the 3-foot post up mark. NBA in college they have the professional courts, they have the 3-foot post up mark. That's kind of your starting area, but again, you can move back and forth as much as you need to get the best angle.
And they're even teaching sometimes to get a little further away, even when that play comes to the basket. So I'm not saying he's in a bad spot, but they're even teaching some cases in some camps to maybe be outside that M.
Yep.
Because as that play is coming,
yeah, that's what he was kind of like telling me, like kind of come out as far as I can, so I can get the full view of that play.
Well, you don't need to come out as far as you can, but you can. But if he took a step or two away from the M, he might even been in a better spot. But again, it also depends on how you read the play. Like he's looking back, like when that's coming, I'm probably taking a step or two out just so I can not, and then I pick up the defender so that when that play happens, I already know what that defender was doing.
Right. So on this particular play, one of the things when we talk about sequencing plays, even though the lead is looking to see the dribble drive, actually this is his primary responsibility right here. Is him.
Right.
That's his primary responsibility. The trail has the dribble drive.
And the lead picked that up.
Lead is supposed to pick up here. So actually he's not even supposed to, he's probably glancing just to see which way he's going to go with the ball, which is fine. But as soon as you kind of pick that dribble drive up, you got to take your eyes and bring them right here, because this, especially at the college and pro level, I mean, high school too, but this is your primary responsibility. This is how you're going to be able to know if this is a legal play, by a block charge or not, by watching this player here. Or let's say if 12 comes over to take the charge or whatever, you know, that's who you watching. The trail has the defender here and the offensive player all the way to the basket. All the way to the basket. This is the trail's responsibility. So if this player here fouls white, who should get it? 9 times out of 10, the trail. Why? Because he saw the play from the beginning. Start, develop, finish. Okay, but you're going to work with some people that's going to tell you, oh no, that's the lead's play all the way to the basket. And you got to know how to officiate with different crews, because that's just kind of what it is. So today, you know, your assigner say, this is how I want you to officiate. Tomorrow's assigner may be a different assigner that wants you to do it slightly different. Might say, hey, lead, I want you to take that all the way to the basket. But you got to make that adjustment. But here, this person here, that's who you're going to be looking for primarily. Any secondary defenders that you see step up like that, that's your primary responsibility at the lead. Okay.
And I would say this as the trail in this case, he needs to follow this player. He needs to follow the primary defender to the basket. And the reason I'm saying, look at what he does right before that contact. See, he comes out to defend him, play that all the way through. Look what he does. So he's in what we call chase mode. And so right as he shoots, he slightly puts his arm on it. Now, in this case, does he shove him in any meaningful way? No. But if this player does something to that shooter, you might have to come in and talk with the lead to make sure that we got the right call.
Yeah.
Because that could be a situation where he got pushed into him as opposed to him running him over.
So so let's say if he was pushed while he was airborne by the person that was kind of like riding him throughout that play, can't the C pick up that call since he can see that kind of, or is that reaching too far?
The C probably
Reaching too
could.
far over.
The C probably could, but the problem with the C is he's got so many bodies in front of him. So he probably doesn't have as good of a perspective. But my point is that the trail, that play originated in trail spot. The trail needs to follow the primary defender all the way to the basket. The secondary defender, what we talk about is usually somebody like that, the player who's in the lane already or trying to defend it after he gets beat. He's secondary. He's not the primary guy. So that's why the lead has to call that. But my point is that you as the trail in this situation need to have an opinion about what that defender did that is the primary defender. Just because it goes away from you. We have a saying, go away, stay away. But that only means with the other contact in front of that player. Watch the primary defender all the way to the basket to make sure, because sometimes that kid pushes him in the back or does something before some other contact, and you got to have an opinion. You might have a double whistle, but your double whistle might be different.
And then the C honestly not supposed to be looking that far. That's also something that I have a trouble with sometimes. The C not even supposed to be looking all the way over there. So
well, he doesn't have a clean look at that. So, I mean, look at 12. 12 is coming over. He probably doesn't. There's no way he probably sees cleanly that play.
Yeah.
Now, if 12's not there and it's a clear push, I have a different opinion about that. If 12 is like at the Conference USA or lower, and then now I have a clean look, now he could have an opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we, a lot of times what I learned at camp too is they talk about having an opinion about plays. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to blow your whistle, but something might happen where the angle just opens up to you, and now I got an opinion on whether they push it, because if there's nobody in his way, if there's clearly a push, he could come in with a cadence whistle, but that's not what happened on this play.
Mm-hmm. That's like the secondary help,
right?
If needed.
If needed. And again, it might be once in a game that you have to do that. That's not a play that you want to have 10 times. You have 10 of them plays, then I'm going to be questioning what are you looking at and what are the other players doing.
And then too, also at the trail position, because these kids are real slick now. You got to watch that offensive player, because they'll take that offhand and they'll grab that wrist or that arm of the defender, and you think it's a foul on the defender, and it's actually a foul on the offense. Like right there, they'll grab that offensive player knows that hand is there. They'll take that hand, they'll grab it and just hold on to it while they're dribbling, to make you think that that's a defensive foul, and it could be an offensive foul. So, I mean, and the whole point of being able to sequence the play properly is to be able to prevent double whistles. So for a long time, we would have a lot of double whistles. So I know at the college and pro level, that's why they're saying that the trail should take this primary defender all the way to the basket. And the lead should worry about the secondary defender. So the reason they say that is because if both the lead and the trail are watching this primary defender all the way to the basket, you're going to have double whistles all the time, meaning both of them are going to have whistles. So they realize that if we split the responsibilities up, our call accuracy gets much, much better, which is a valid point. So now if the trail says, okay, you got this play from the wing all the way to the basket, so that means you got this one-on-one matchup, no problem. Now the lead is going to pick up the secondary defender or anybody in this lane for that matter. The C is going to help on the backside, all of that stuff. So now everybody has their primary responsibilities. So that way now we can prevent as many double whistles as possible. Okay. So now the trail's not going to have a whistle on that play. Why? Because that's the lead's responsibility on that secondary defender. Because guess what? The lead's defender didn't do anything. I mean, the Trails defender didn't do anything. Does it make sense, Dion?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so you're going to see that a lot, especially in 3-person. Now, I will admit, some people don't have what we call whistle discipline, and they just call all over the court, or what we like to say, they go fishing. I mean, they throw the fishing rod out there, and they just calling everything,
Just pulling whatever they find.
Right. I saw foul. You to see why you calling foul way across there on the other side of the court, and you got 2 other partners over there.
Yeah,
so
and I'm still working on that too, still.
And it comes with practice. But my point is this: at the end of the day, if you know who your primary responsibilities, or the primary responsibility of players that you're supposed to officiate at any given moment during a sequence of a play, it's going to teach you how to become more disciplined, because you're going to say, oh, this player is not in my primary. I'm going to trust my partner to get that call if something happens. Make sense?
Yeah, just like knowing the diaphragm, because it's been like a couple of times where I was refereeing at the Golden Dome, and I was calling fouls on different parts of the court. But like you said, if I'm paying attention to them three designated spots on where I should be calling from, I shouldn't even have no whistle. And then, like you said, trusting my partner too. So yeah, I feel like for me, it's gonna help me if I just know, like, all right, this is my area, and just like literally focus on that area, because I'll tend to ball watch too. So
And let me say this too. That takes practice. That
yeah,
takes a lot of practice. So if you're
yeah,
not doing it perfectly, trust me, I'm in my 29th year, and I'm still working on that. I went to a couple
yeah.
college camps here the last week, and and as a matter of fact, I had a game where I was calling some stuff probably a little too quick. The guy said something to me, the clinician said something to me, and then he saw me in another game, and then I was very disciplined on the next game, and he credited me for being disciplined next game. So that's a play. That's hard to do, because you got to really know when to trust your partner. And the thing is, I say this, what we do as high school officials. I say high school because I've done it too. We call stuff at the point of contact. Point of contact happens, we have a whistle. Boom. He hits his arm. Boom. We're calling the foul before it even gets out his arm. What we need to know is, like, look at the point of contact and see the end of the play and the result, maybe, then blow our whistle, make a decision. See the start, develop, and the finish, and the result, and blow it in the result phase. Because a lot of times, if you just wait half a second, sometimes you won't even have to call them play, especially play at the basket. Like, what if that play was a hit on the arm and he makes the basket with ease, and you put a whistle on it? Now we put a whistle. He landed okay. His arm didn't get raked off. We don't need a whistle on that play. He completed what he needed to do. Now, if he hits his arm, ball goes 8 feet over the basket,
Then
and you see the
you
ball's
call
going,
foul.
boop, now, yep, he got it. Because how many
Right.
times they say and one? I pride myself when they say and one, and
They
I don't
say
call a
and
whistle.
one even when they don't get touched.
Exactly. So I try not to call whistles. It's something I worked on. If they say and one, I'm trying not to call anything. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to call anything. It just means I'm trying not to. And if you get to the point where you discipline, now you try, and especially when you recognize the play is in my partner's area, that's his play, that's her play. And if they pass on it, if I pass on it, okay, we're good. Are we gonna miss plays? Yes, we're gonna miss them all the time.
Then it helps when you know basketball too, because you know that they trying to get a foul too.
Absolutely. So if they complete what they're doing, and see, that's the other part. That's what 427 in the rule book says, incidental contact. It's not a foul unless it affects their normal offensive or defensive movement. So what does that really mean in English? If they're able to do what they were trying to do and it didn't affect anything,
Without any displacement of the like shooting motion or something like that,
or
then
illegal contact of any kind, we don't need a whistle.
right.
If it does, and then that's where your judgment, that's where you got a referee. If it does, then we can make the decision that we need to make appropriately. But that takes practice. And I want to emphasize that, because if you're starting out now, it's good that you're thinking that, because I wasn't thinking that when I first started. When I first started, I thought, yeah, he hit his arm, boop, foul.
Yeah, I
He
remember.
touched him, foul. It looked like he hand checked him, foul. And then I got to a point where it's like, wait a minute, I'm calling all these fouls that we don't need on plays that they're completing.
Yeah, I'm in my third year, and I'm seeing that now. So
Right. And if you
yeah,
doing that now, that's you 15 years ahead of me from when I was doing it, because I wasn't doing that when I started. I'm 10, 15 years in before I really realized that I don't need to call everything at the point of contact. Or if I miss a foul, it's okay, because that's my partner. Because a lot of times I'll ask him, "What did you have on that play? I thought he got killed. No, he hit the ball, this, that, the other. Damn, I thought I saw this. Glad I didn't call nothing."
I done had that conversation with Clarence so many times.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, it's a lot of the things that we're teaching you all as the younger officials, it took us, I mean, years and years and years to learn. Like you guys are getting it so much faster than we ever got it. And then like
Right.
the technology, the videos, like we didn't have all of that stuff. So we just basically had somebody in a meeting physically say, "Hey, come here. I want you to be the screener, and I want you to do this, and you do the role, and they moving you, and you like, okay, you just trying to visualize the play, and you don't see the actual play until you get to a game to say, okay, this is what they were talking about. Oh, okay, now I get it. You know, it might take you a week or two to see the actual play happen to understand what it meant, but you know, having you guys coming out to see, you know, see the stuff, and then you got videotape to break it down. You can rewind, fast forward. I mean, it just helps your learning curve so much. But like for me personally, like having RefQuest has been a lifesaver for me, because I'm not gonna lie, it's like going through RefQuest. I look at these plays in slow motion so much, and I do it, and I found out for me, the more I slow the play down, the better my call reaction is when I see it in real time. So what happens is you see the sequence of the play frame by frame by frame by frame. So when it happens in real time, you're so used to seeing it, you just know what a travel looks like. You know what the block charge looks like. You know it was the defender there before he went airborne. Like it just becomes instinctive, you know. So it becomes automatic, you know. But everybody has their own way of studying and you know learning. But that's just what works for me. So I like breaking them down in slow motion so you guys can see. Because I'll tell you this: there's times when I watch RefQuest, and I'm sure Jeff and Pam the same way. You'll see an instant replay of something, and in real time, you're like, "Oh, that's that's a foul." Then you look at it, and then you got a different camera, and you're like, "Oh, that's not a foul. He didn't even touch it." You know, and you're like, "Oh, how did I get that?" And then now you start questioning yourself. Okay, let me go back to this and review this again. What was I looking at the first time that I didn't see that I should have paid attention to? Okay. And those are the little things, like as you can see, like tonight, we broke one play down. You could spend, you know, 10, 15 minutes just breaking down one play from each position, trail, center, lead. Were they looking in the right spot? Were they in the right spot? Did they position adjust? If they did position adjust, did they do their secondary responsibilities properly? Like there's so much to a sequence of a play that when you really break a play down, I mean, you could spend, you know, minutes or hours talking about different plays.
And I'll think of it.
Yeah,
And
like
go ahead, Dion. I'm sorry.
like when y'all like that diaphragm like with the blue arrows, that just really helped me because it's been a lot of times, and I honestly like when I was refereeing at at the Southland Center this past weekend, it was a call that I called that was a block, but it was clearly a charge though. But he was moving like lateral, but you know, like in my mind, I'm like, you know, his feet wasn't set, so I called a block, but that was really supposed to be a charge because he was moving lateral and he had his both feet planted facing the defender and he was just moving lateral too. So yeah, that like kind of helped me a lot with that like you know.
And see,
So
that's why watching film is so important, because because you can even break it down when it's happening live in that kind of way. I equate what we do similar to a quarterback in the NFL. The quarterback in the NFL has to be able to read a coverage, see what the movements are, and figure out that coverage before before the play is snapped. They have to do that. If they watch a lot of film so that they can recognize those things, so they already know where they're going to go with the football, where they're not going to go with the football, and where the breakdowns in those coverages are. We have to do the same thing as officials. Just like we broke down that play, that we were breaking down the 2 or 3 plays, that's exactly the same kind of thought process we got to go into. Because if we see those plays enough on film, when it happens live, it's slowed down. And then if you notice a rookie, what do they tell you after they've been in the league 10 years? Well, the game slowed down for me. Why did it slow down? Because they've seen that 500 times. The NBA, but I've heard, I think the NBA has, like, they say, like 15 plays that everybody runs. There's some variation. And if they've seen it enough, if you've read those plays enough as a guard or whatever, you know what you're going to do with the ball before it even happens. So it's the same thing with us when we see film after film after film. That's why people say, well, you shouldn't watch films. We don't get it slow motion. Bullshit. Watch it slow motion because your mind will slow it down for you if you've seen the play enough.
Mm-hmm. Then you
You
can
see
see
that block
the
charge
little
enough,
stuff
then
that you missed.
I'll start looking at the thing I'm supposed to look at and recognize it and know. Black charge plays are easy for me. I'm gonna be honest. That's some of the easiest calls. Usually, I can see, especially high school level, I can see that player coming a mile away. I can see him in the backcourt. He gonna run this dude over because he going to the basket and he ain't gonna move and he gonna try to get in position to get run over and this, that, the other. So all I did is once the contact happens and once it happens, I already know what I'm gonna call because I've already seen. I read the play 10 seconds before it happened. And that's how we got to get with film. And you guys are right. Clarence is right. When I started, we had VHS tape. That was the best I could get at a camp. That wasn't even a real game. I remember that. My first VHS tape, and I was so excited to see myself on film. And it is now, I see everything on film. I see Clarence's played, Pam's played, my play. So now we have no excuse. Even if it's not my game, I can't get it. I watch other people's film. I want to see if they're doing what I think they should be doing.
Mhm.
It's
So,
just the way it is.
so like
Go ahead.
like for me, what I like to do sometimes is because, you know, if you've ever played basketball, you understand, like from a player's perspective, different types of plays that they run: 5 out, 4 out, 1 in, 2 out, 3 out, 2 in, you know, high, low, 1-4 high, 1-4 low. So sometimes I go on YouTube and I'll just type in, like, this is flex offense. This is probably one of the toughest offenses to run. But once you understand the system and the repetitiveness of it, it's easy. Now, but from an officiating standpoint, you got to know, okay, flex offense, if I see a team going to any type of flex offense, they're going to set a whole lot of screens. Okay, there's going to be down screens, there's going to be cross screens, there's going to be backdoor cuts, there's going to be all of these. So as an official, I put myself in each position. I say, I may watch this same play like maybe 8 to 10 times. I'm gonna watch it one time through from the trail position. That's all I'm watching is the trail position. What am I looking at in my primary? I'm gonna watch it from the C position. What am I looking at in my primary? I'm gonna watch it from the lead position. What am I looking at in my primary? Then I'm gonna go back and say, okay, who's the player do I think, who's the shooter? I'm gonna watch the play again and see who the shooter is, who's the big man. Now, I do that because now I'm training my mind to say, okay, if I know I got Shaquille O'Neal on the court and I know he's a dominant player, and the ball typically goes to that person to score in the post area, I need to understand, okay, what should I be looking for? Is he setting cross screens, down screens? Is he curling off of screens? What does he normally like to get his shot off at? Like, just like how coaches and players break down plays to know tendencies, we as officials have to do that as well, because that's what's going to help you get better when you see, no matter what team you officiate on any level, you'll know, okay, when I see flex offense, I know what I'm looking for. So for example, here you go. Here's the flex offense. So it usually starts off with a pass, and then somebody's going to set a screen. Okay, so that's the baseline screen. Then there's going to be so they got the shot off right away. Okay, so that's one way of running it. Sometimes they may pass the ball several times. So he'll go to high screen. Okay, the high pass. Then he's going to go down and set a baseline screen again. Okay, so you got to know this. So now I need to know, as a lead, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the baseline screen. Are the screens legal? Okay. So there's different ways you can start it off, but the concept is still the same. There's going to be a baseline screen. Now you got the down screen. So guess what? As the lead or as the center here, you got to watch for those screens. So you got to
That
know.
see right there, like you could have got caught something too.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if you understand how teams flow with their offensive set, you understand their strategies, like especially for the high school level. High school level is so predictable because the coach same sets every single year with different.
Yeah, they do most of the same thing.
Right. So if you understand Whitney Young sets or Simeon sets, like since I've been officiating, they run pretty much the same set. They may do a slight variation of it depending on the players that's on the court. And I'm talking girls and boys. I ain't talking about just boys. I'm talking girls and boys. So once you understand that, then it just makes it that much easier to know how to officiate the game. So, and trust me, that's one less pressure you have to worry about when you're out there officiating a city championship or a big ball game and it's a packed gym and the pressure, everybody's screaming and yelling, ref, you suck. And that's one less thing you got to worry about because oh, I know the type of offensive sets they run. I know the defensive sets. I know who the scorers are. I know who the shot blockers are. I know who the best, the ones who you typically get the steals on the play. What type of, do they reach with their left hand for the steal or the right hand? Like little things like that. Once you start picking that up, it's going to make your officiating so much better. Like, I mean, and again, most people don't look at it from that perspective. But when you've been around long enough, you understand those are little tips and tools that you can use to help get you better and your crew better. Because sometimes just having that knowledge will save you on the play. Like if I know who the right-handed shooters are, typically right-handed shooters like to get the ball on the left-hand side and dribble right. Left-handed shooters like to get the ball on the right-hand side and dribble left. But again, you got to know that. So when they warming up, I'm watching them do their jump shots. I'm watching them do their layups. I'm watching them run their passing and cuts to the, who's running off the screen on the baseline. And is the person going to be legal? Are they going out of bounds intentionally? Are they going out of bounds because of the way the screen is set? Like little things like that make a huge difference.
Or even when I watch them in their post move, you're a post player. I watch to see how they set up, how they get the ball. Do they travel every time they do it? Like there's little things like that. Like I know what foot that is he right foot dominant? Is he left foot dominant? Because sometimes they might be right handed, but they might go to their left first, or they might go to their right first. It's like little stuff like that. You can, and I self talk like, okay, right foot is the pivot foot. Okay, well, that makes me think of, okay, I'm watching the right foot. So if he does something with the right foot that's illegal, I already know or already have decided that that's what I got to watch. Like stuff like that. Like that's a screen, like screens. I self-talk all the time. Oh, that's a legal screen. That's legal. He's on the edge, and I say this out loud to myself. So even when I have a player that's setting a screen, if they're on the edge, you know what I will do? I'll go to that player and say, hey man, I need you to set a legal screen for me. You haven't set a good screen for me yet. Now, maybe I didn't call it because they didn't displace anybody, or the defender that he was going into or went into him wasn't trying to get around the screen. That happens, but those are conversations that you need to have with yourself so that just what he's saying, because the more we know about the game and the teams that's why I say, your impact player. In high school, it's usually only one real impact player. Unless you get the Simeons in their great years where they had 2 or 3 impact players, most of the time we know who the 3-point shooter is. We know who the guy who's going to be the big guy in the post. We know who the guy who's going to the basket. You don't even have to think, like, I know he going to the basket.
Right.
I know he going to go right to the basket.
Or watch this, especially at the high school level, the coaches give it away. They'll be telling, man, give him the ball, give him the ball. So if you hear them saying, give him the ball, okay, who they trying to get the ball to? That's the person you key in on, because that's going to be the score of the game for the most part. So little things like that you start picking up on, because like very rarely do the high school teams run like a decoy. They'll run a decoy play like at the last second shot, to get a shot off, or like a buzzer beater shot or something like that. But typically, they don't do that. They're gonna go through the same score every game. And if the other team don't stop them from scoring, guess what? That person gonna probably get 30 points tonight. So you gotta know how to officiate that player. And like for me, one of the tips that I always somebody taught me a long time ago, we're doing the warm-ups. you know, you could kind of see when you're watching the warm up, you see the ones that's trying to dunk the ball or jumping real high, stuff like that. And I might tease them when they come, you know how they make their layup and they go to the other end of the line, then they come back and they get the rebound, pass it to the offensive side, and they go in and shoot their layup. Then that player come run to the end of the line. I say, hey, big fella, do me a favor, man. Stop trying to make posters on people tonight. I don't need you dunking on everybody tonight. And they'd be like, what you talking about, Rep? Oh, you know, I love dunking on people. That gives you, that lets you know, hey, that's the person I need to keep my eye on because that's the one that's going to be trying to dunk tonight. So guess what? I'm paying attention because he's thinking about dunking. You know, the one that shoot the threes all the time. You can see him out there because that's all they may not even go into the lane to shoot layups doing warm-ups. They worry about just shooting threes all day. So they're gonna be out there shooting threes doing warm-up. So it's just little things you can pick up on, you know, or even if you don't know, say if it's a team you've never had before, you might just ask one of the players, hey, White 52, come here for a second. Yes, sir. Yeah, what's up, bro? Hey man, I heard you had a pretty good game the other night. He was like, oh, I didn't play. You talking about 23. You ain't talking about me. You talking about 23. That's oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's different ways you can get the information, or you can just check the scorebook and look at the previous. Hey, okay, yesterday when y'all played, so-and-so had 15, so-and-so had 20. This person had 10 rebounds. Okay, cool. I got a mental note. You know, so this is different ways you can, you know, just find little tips that can get, like they said, how we gain an advantage. If we gain that advantage and you use that advantage to help you get to officiate the game the best way you can.
Absolutely.
Pam, you got any tips for the young fella?
Yeah, watching video, and the more you watch it, the more it helps you train yourself to anticipate the play. And like he was saying about high school teams, they'll run the same play from the same side. Sometimes most of the time it's from the right side. Sometimes they'll switch to the left, but you pretty much know when they come down, oh, you know where the ball's going to go. So that helps you know where to go and how to referee the defense. But so the more you watch, sometimes it's almost comical when you're doing some games and you know exactly what they're going to do and who's going to do it and from where, because you've gotten your mind in the game. So you're in the game yourself. So, and watching a lot of video helped you to do that. Whereas, when we were coming along, it gradually came to us because we didn't have all of these resources available that you can see now that break it down, tell you where to go. The arrow tells you how to do this, go where. So it's very helpful.
And I'll admit this, you know, and when I stumbled over IAABO, I mean, there are a lot of people that are doing trainings and things, you know, especially during the pandemic because everything was Zoom. But you know, when I got that manual, I was just like, whoa, okay, this is the real deal. Like this is they put some thought into this. This wasn't just like, oh, we're just gonna throw some stuff together and say, hey, this is what we do. No, they put some serious thought and dedication into that manual. And if you really look at it, they break down a lot of stuff even better than the Federation. You know, like they give you explanations as to why or why not, or what you should be looking at, and you know, primary responsibilities, secondaries, you know, block charge, and if the team is pressing where you should be. And like, I mean, they do all that through not just the manual, but even through their videos, their training. I mean, to me, it's like I was just like, this is a no for $35 a year. I'm like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I was telling everybody about it. Like, we take a look at this, you know, and then
sold me.
Right. I said, and especially for newer officials, like I said, the learning curve going through IAABO. Oh my God, if I'd had that when I started, if all of us would have had this when we started out, we'd probably be at the NBA level by now. You know, a lot sooner or whatever, because it just makes it so much easier to grasp the knowledge, you know. So, you know, and now they got the IAABO University. They changed it, just so you know. Why I got you on here, Dion and Roosevelt. Just so
I'm definitely go ahead and get that little manual and start being in the league.
Well, here's the thing. So this is I mean, this is not a part of the membership. This is an extra fee. But if you decide to they have a actual IAABO online rules course. I would highly recommend you do it. I've done both. They got the high school mechanics rules. You have to complete this first, which is it's pay $75, and you do that, and it gives you the explanation on here. You can read it if you go to the web. It's iaabou.org. I'll just put it in the chat. but you can go on here, you can read it. It explains basically what'll happen after you complete the high school course. It's 20 lessons, and at the end of each lesson, they give you like a little quiz or whatever, and then you get like a final exam at the end of 20th lesson. After you finish that, then you can do the crew of 2 tableside mechanics. So a lot of the videos that I've been sharing with you guys, that's where I've been getting them from. You know, but now you can go back and you can have access to this stuff for, I think you get, once you sign up, I think you get like up to 3 months to complete the course, each one of them. And then you can go back and review it, you know. So like even after you finish the crew of 2, you got 3 months to complete it. I believe it's two or 3 months to complete it. But then after you complete the course, you got to get 80% or better. And it's easy. It's not like difficult. It just basically give you like a few videos. It's watching videos, and then you just answer the questions at the end of each lesson for the videos. But once you finish that, then you can go back and access the tableside mechanics for a whole year after you complete the course. So I'm like, again, it just makes it that much easier to understand. So you can go back and rewatch this stuff as much as you want. And I mean, again, for the small investment that you're paying, the opportunities that could potentially be there for you to get better, to advance. And when I say advance, I don't necessarily mean like going to college per se, but just advance from a perspective of, you know, having to be able to, you know, get better quality ball games. You know, Pam may call you, say, hey, you know, I got a game over such and such, you know, maybe Simeon and, you know, whoever, or it might, for Jeff may say, hey, you know, somebody's looking for official. Hey, let me refer to Dion. I've been working with Dion. Dion's getting better. I think he can get up there and try one of these high level games, you know. So again, you will advance yourself by applying yourself even more and just taking advantage of the resources that IAABO has, you know, has to offer. So I would highly recommend you, you know, take advantage of the IAABO University.
And that's how I got to varsity when I did. I just got in the books, and you know, I didn't have these resources. We just got in the books and read them, and just tried to be as knowledgeable about it as possible, and stick around and watch guys and gals work and ask questions, come in the locker room and say, hey, why'd you do this, or why did that happen? I mean, it's so important. The more knowledge you have, the better you are when you get out on the court. And you're gonna make mistakes. I mean, we've all made them. You're gonna make those mistakes. You just need to apply the stuff.
Look at the NCAA men's and women's college. They made mistakes. The NBA made mistakes. Like, I mean, I don't care how high up you go. Like, I mean, even some of the veteran officials that we know that are ref in the NBA right now and ref college, when they come back and we see them during the summer, they're like, hey, we still make mistakes, and we've been doing this all. We're about to retire refereeing in the NBA or college or whatever. They still make mistakes. So, you know, you're gonna. The question, like they always say, is not so much the mistake, it's how do you bounce back from it? That's the most important part. How do you bounce back? Do you get in the rule book? Do you get in the case book? Do you call your mentor? Do you break down the film to see why you got that play wrong? Or are you just like, oh, well, I kicked it, my bag, whatever, you know, it's no big deal. No, it is a big deal, you know, because we take pride in what we do. That's why we're doing these Zoom calls and trainings and stuff. And Pam over there rubbing her eyes.
Yes, because I had a meeting before this one. It was so my eyes they're dry.
Definitely, bro.
Now take advantage of the resources. Did you sign up for you signed up for IAABO, right, Dion?
No, I didn't sign up for it. No, but I'm about to though.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of it. You know, get signed up, and like I said, you know, the IAABO University, that's an extra fee, but it's definitely worth the investment, because I tell you, once you start going through those courses,
No,
man,
yeah, I'm gonna do all that because I need all that because I see that I got, you know, some potential for real. So I'm gonna like, you know, take advantage now.
great. So yeah, definitely. Well, I don't want to keep everybody on the call much longer. Jeff, did you have anything else, or Pam, did you guys have anything?
No, I'm good. I've been talking enough tonight.
Dude, I gotta get. Pam, did you get the flyer? I texted you the flyer. Did you get it?
Yes, thank you.
All right, good. So yeah, well, definitely thank you everybody for being on the call. I'm glad we were able to go through this information.
Definitely appreciate y'all.
No problem. That's what we here
Not
for.
a problem, man.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Night,
everybody.
Milton, Dion, Roosevelt.
See you. See you Saturday, man. Well, I'm gonna
Milton
see
been quiet.
Hey, it's called active
Could he
listening.
get a word in?
Probably not. Not tonight.
I'm practicing active listening. It's okay.
He couldn't
You got
get a word
2 ears and 1 mouth. Remember that, guys? All right, guys. Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody. Bye.
All
Thank
right,
you.
y'all.
Good job, Jeff. Good job,
Thank you.
Claire.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye. Glad I could